everyone around the world and uh, whatever on the internet. Hi, everybody. Oh, good. Now the puppy wants to come out. Look at him, like a criminal. All right, you want to come? Come on, come on. There's my pile of crap there. It's a good view. Um, here's the patio. And there's the kitty. Hey, kitty cat. Should probably open the curtain. Maybe put myself in the shot. Maybe that's more interesting for y'all as we wait for Kitty Cat to hopefully arrive. I haven't heard from her this morning. Usually I hear from her on the morning before we would film these, and haven't heard from her this week, so I hope I'm not misremembering something that she's like not going to be coming or something. If so, we'll just have a short live this week because she was supposed to be doing a reading, and I don't really have anything special to talk about. And I have writing to do. I have to work on this month. Oh, never mind. She's here. Ooh, okay. Hello. 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 Hey.
Hi.
How you
How's it
doing?
going? I'm good.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah.
I just gotta finish setting up here, so you're gonna see black screen for a sec.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
It happens. Oh.
Yeah, I just gotta do some things right here before we start. But yeah, so how was your week?
Oh my God, so busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're 3 weeks from the end of the school year. I have 2 kids in school. One of whom is graduating, and one of whom is in the 3rd grade. So apparently, that's like peak busy.
Yep.
I don't know. I didn't know.
I can see it.
Who knew? How about you?
Pretty good. I've been busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, same thing. Kids coming out of school soon. Trying to get set up for all the camping trips I've got reserved for the summer.
That's
So
awesome.
that's exciting. Yeah, just finished picking out a date and reserving a spot for August, which is going to be actually on an island. It's just off where I live. So we're going to be
Ooh.
taking a boat over. The island has like no roads, so it's all just like walking. It's small, but it's like big enough to like you can take about maybe 3-4 hours to walk the entire thing of it.
Nice.
Yeah. So
And
yeah.
there's just nothing out there?
Well, nothing out there. No, not really, except for beaches and nature and
Well,
a
right.
lot of
I mean,
field
like,
mice.
nothing man-made, I guess is what I mean.
The last time, well, there is a little bit. Like, there's
Mm.
a store that you
Oh.
can get some like ice cream or a hot dog with fries and all that. And there is a setup of a kayak rental, bike rental place there, and I think there might be a small playground.
That's
You
cool.
know,
So that's somebody's commute. That's awesome.
yeah.
Imagine having that be your job and that's your daily commute. Like,
Yeah. Well, the people that work there are the natives that actually own it, the island.
oh,
It was given back, and so
good.
yeah, they there's another island right beside it called Protection Island as well. And when the tide goes out, the islands connect,
Oh,
so you can actually
okay.
walk. And then these two islands are really close to the port of where I live. So
Uh-huh.
it's the boat ride over is about like half an hour if.
Uh-huh.
So it's not that far. But still it's still a little island. So I didn't think it'd be very responsible for now to go somewhere too far in
Yeah.
August because it's going to be crazy hot
Oh, yeah.
and I don't want to be stuck in a situation where there's a forest fire and there's only one highway out and it's blocked. on
Oh,
fire.
yeah.
So yeah. So I'm making just a little bit little changes this year about how far I'm going, where I'm going,
Mm,
and the more into the summer it gets, the less I'm going to go like outward more. Like I'm going to come make it closer to come here, and if something happens, if there's a fire on the island or whatever, they've got it. Like it's not going to spread. Like it's going to be easy to just because they've
right.
got like actual like it's not it's so small and it's not if we have to leave, we'd have to leave. It's and since there's no cars, there's no vehicles, they have to actually go and get everyone off with their own boat.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm not too
Yikes.
worried about that. But I doubt there'll be a fire there anyways. I'd be more worried about going in the back roads and stuff like that because you don't have
Yeah.
cell service either, so you wouldn't know,
Oh, fun.
right? So
Yeah.
and there's only so many ways to get in and out because it's so there's so much mountainous areas, right? That there's
Yeah.
not always the like a plethora of ways to get to one destination to next, right? It's usually one road. And so if that gets
Right.
blocked and you don't know there's a fire, you're fucked. And you can't call
Hmm.
anyone and you like you're screwed.
Great. Yeah. It sounds like it could snowball quickly.
Yeah, it could. Well, that's what almost happened last year, right? When I went to
Ironic turn of phrase, maybe, but
yeah. No, but like last year because I went somewhere called okay, I went to a spot in like actual like the boonies where there's like it's back roads. So like dirt back roads, it's all like no out in the butt fuck nowhere.
right.
And you get there by connecting to one highway going through Port Alberti to Tofino. And there was a fire. I could smell it too. I could smell the fire. There was no cell service. And when I was coming back, we almost didn't made it be able to actually get out because the fire started right next to the highway that leads into Port Alberni and to where then I live. So there was only one way out that could be taken. And it was right there, the setup near close to the road. If that would have spread over, get closer, then we would
Yeah.
have been stuck. There'd be nowhere to go.
Right.
There's no way
Right.
to get to the west side of the country because I'm in the middle of the island, right? And
Mhm.
I'm on the east side, and then the west side would be the only place I could go because it was like cutting in the middle.
There's
So
a lot of rural roads, out by where we live. And goodness knows we saw some on the way back from the coast last year.
mhm.
Where yeah, there's just the one road.
Mhm.
And if it's blocked for whatever reason, yeah, you're just not
Yeah.
going through there.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Especially if it's
Um,
mountainous.
yeah, exactly, because that's why there's only one road, and like,
Yeah,
yeah, there's a reason. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
that's the loveliness of living right next to the Ring of Fire, or whatever, or the Ring of Fire. What's it
Oh
called?
wow. The bring up
Yeah,
yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah. We don't have that. Actually, thanks to El Nino, we're settling in for a cold, rainy summer this year. So
Hold on, I'm just reading this.
oh, Tacoma shooting on Tacoma Mall. There's a shooting at the okay. Wow. That
That's not
that
good.
sucks. Yeah. And somebody else wants to know where you're from.
Me, I'm from Canada,
Yeah.
so I live on what's known as Vancouver Island, off of Vancouver, British Columbia.
I'm in the eastern United States.
I'm
So
in the West.
yeah,
We're far
we're like
apart. Yeah,
yeah. But we get to have these fun conversations every week. So
yeah.
yeah.
I hold on. Let me just get this phone off this thing. It's gonna put it on soon. Thing. Yeah. Keep talking.
Oh,
Don't mind me.
girl, you were doing most of the talking. Let's see. I am just praying for a respite that I don't think I'm going to get because I need to work on my book.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and my oldest has a college tour uh before the end of the month, and yeah, I also need to get a video done this month somehow, and I'm thinking of talking about suffering, which I know sounds romantic and glorious, and everyone is going to be
Suffering.
excited to watch my video about suffering. But like, I genuinely think it's like the biggest failure in philosophy and religion and like all of that stuff in general. So like, not make a strong distinction between pointless suffering, that we should all do our best to eliminate, like child hunger, for example. What does that
Well,
serve?
actually,
And
talking about that, I just want to point out before I forget it that I know Nietzsche actually talks a lot about suffering
yeah, well, they
and the
do.
reasons why and all that. That I find pretty interesting. Just
Okay.
in case you wanted to
Yeah.
delve into that a little bit before you make your
Right.
video, see what
There's
you
a
have to
whole
say.
lot that could be said. I'm trying to figure out what exactly I want to say and then sort of shape it around that, obviously.
Yeah,
But I've been
I
thinking
just
about
thought
it
that would
based
be interesting
on,
to you.
yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's because of the nihilism video that I've been, I think, sort of steered down this track,
Yeah.
um, because I just, if your life is meaningless, I'm tempted to say you haven't suffered enough, because like suffering for things makes them meaningful.
Hmm.
In this way that I feel is really corny to say that, but avoiding suffering is like this mental disease. Like people, especially older people these days, just don't want to do shit because they're not fun. I'm like, are you serious?
Hmm. Or yeah, so when you say avoiding suffering, you're meaning like avoiding the acknowledgement of suffering.
Well, or experiencing it in your own daily life on a moment by moment basis. Because
Well,
I
then how
like in
much
that.
of it? Well, then it depends on what you mean by suffering, because I don't think lots of people around here suffer that much, in my opinion, compared to a lot of other places and a lot of and
Right. Everyone
yeah,
obviously has their own sort of Overton window, if you will, their own baseline
yeah.
of experience, but like no one is without suffering, you know? Like that life doesn't exist.
Well, depends. I think that depends on what you think suffering like actually is like this. Where you what you think
Unhappiness,
of as
you
suffering
know?
being. Hmm?
Are you
What?
trying to say that because like what are you trying to say that rich people don't have any are never unhappy? Because I yes.
Being unhappy and suffering, I think, are two separate things.
Right. I'm trying. I think would argue that it's like sort of a spectrum, which I know that
Yeah, that's what I mean.
that's
Like, it depends on where you are on the spectrum of what you consider to be suffering,
right. But
right?
I mean, you can you're not going to avoid it. There is just no way to have a life free of uh, uh, you know it's a universal experience.
Again, I say,
And you're seriously going to sit here? Who in this world doesn't suffer?
I think a
Oh
lot of
my
people
god.
that live rich, yeah, I will say it, live a lot more richer life, have a lot less suffering, or even suffering at all. I mean, but that's dependent upon what I consider to be suffering.
Okay, so you define it then.
Um, Suffering would be the complete, I don't know, lack of ability to function due to the state of your environment being so chaotically destroyed, basically. I mean, what else, like, what would you consider to be suffering?
But I think
I
there's a
mean,
lot
to
of
live in a
different
state of
kinds.
such destruction, of such like um devoid of all your necessities to life, things like that, that's suffering.
Well,
Being unhappy, I don't find to be suffering, even if it is detrimental to your, happiness. Like, just
okay.
because you're not happy doesn't make you suffering.
Based on what do you have this extremely like narrow definition?
Well, I don't know. Let's see what it says on the, because suffering to me sounds to be so extreme. It sounds to be extreme, and it's extreme. Like, despondent sort of attitude because of but uncontrollable things within your environment, like, or your life, because
Okay.
it's like almost like to a depression almost, right? That you can't escape of,
Right.
you can't even challenge because like, and it's just everywhere. So hold on, let me just say suffering.
Yeah,
See
I don't
the
have a way to like look up the generic definition right now.
yeah, but I am right now just to see where I land on
It
what it
just
says in
didn't
the
occur to me
definition.
that like this wouldn't be a universal, like of course it is. That's the whole existentialism, like that's the entire basis of all of these philosophies that we have been discussing. Is that suffering is universal, and what do you make of that? That is the whole
I
point.
don't think everyone thinks that. Yeah, see, it says
No, I guess not.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what it says here, it says, yeah, to submit to or be forced to endure, and to put up with, especially as inevitable or unavoidable, to allow, especially by reason of indifference, to endure death, pain, and complete damage, distress.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think there's a lot. I think there's people that
Death
live.
comes for everyone. Yes.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
when
I'm
you say
saying.
death, it says death, destruction, completely endure, have to be forced to submit. So when you put that
Uh-huh.
all together, it's things that are uncontrollable to you that is going to actually destroy your whole foundation. People's dying, death is universal, but that
Uh-huh.
doesn't equate
Uh-huh.
to suffering. People die. If
Yes.
you're really rich, you get to have a lot of like surgery. You can have a lot of like ability to change
But
the
like
outcome until the
people
point
you
you're
love
gonna
will
die.
still
Actually,
die.
in old age, and I don't think that's suffering. I don't.
People you love will still die, and there's nothing you
Yeah,
can do
and that's
about
a
it, no
natural part
matter
of
how
life. I
rich
don't
you
find that
are.
to be suffering. I don't
Oh
find
my
that to be suffering.
God, yes it is.
No, it's not.
Having people you love die isn't suffering, girl.
Not if they're in old age, lived a good life, because that's just the natural
But
order of things.
but
People
that's
haven't come to
not
terms
how.
with that.
Okay,
That
okay.
doesn't make it
John F. Kennedy
suffering.
Jr. died in a plane crash when he was like
And I had a
35.
happy moment.
Like, okay, fine, but like people who loved him were sad, I bet.
Oh, sad
And there was
again, not
nothing they could
suffering.
do about it. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
sad is not
Yes.
suffering though.
Yes.
And I don't really
You
know
think
how
rich
sad they
people
really
don't
were.
suffer? You think rich people don't suffer? This is
I didn't say
incredibly
all rich people. I
incendiary.
said for the majority, no, they don't.
Wow, that's a hot take, girl.
No, it's not. I don't think
Yes,
so.
it is. That rich
No,
people
I
don't
don't.
suffer when people they love die. That's a hot take. Yes,
They
it
might
is.
think it's suffering, but I don't think it
Oh,
is.
oh, when you are the arbiter of that, because why?
Because of what I read on the of the definition. There, to endure, to submit, to be servile to have lost, destruction, just desolate. That's not
Uh-huh.
death. That's not death. Someone dying after living a full life in luxury, I don't think
Like
really
you don't.
saddens a lot of people when they die. Even their family. I just don't. I think they might be sad. I don't think that they
Do you
suffer.
think these people are human?
Not really.
Wow, that's dark.
Well,
And really
they've
like
disassociated themselves from their own
I'm
humanity.
disassociating myself from that perspective. I disagree entirely. I think all humans are human. Like what the fuck? Okay.
If
Hang
you
on a
lost your
second.
humanity, then you've lost the nature of being human.
Wow. Lacking empathy doesn't make somebody not, okay. Wow. And like I'm not I can't, like I'm not gonna sit here and argue for rich people, but like
But you kind of are.
no, I'm arguing for the fact that they suffer when people they care about die
Do they
because
really care that much about people, even in their own family? Not really.
oh my god, that's
I don't believe so.
based on what?
Based on the fact that they're sociopaths. And
Like the
that's their
tribalism is
motivation.
real.
That's their motivation, is always self-interest. And it's gotten to a point where they literally are psychic.
I can't believe you're making me try and say that rich people are human. Like I have to argue in favor of them for some reason on this channel. Like this is an incredibly just stop. No.
I'm not forcing you to do anything. If that's
Oh,
what you
you
feel,
are
that's what you feel.
saying absolutely insane things that I feel like I have to counter. And like, we did not discuss
I
this
don't think it's
beforehand.
insane to say that.
I
I don't think that they
disagree.
suffer. I
Stop.
don't think they suffer.
Stop.
What?
That's so evil and wrong to say that, and I just
It's not evil and
wholeheartedly
wrong. It's either correct
inhumane
or
to
not.
say
I
that, and
don't
I
think they
can't believe,
suffer.
like, that's so evil. What the fuck?
How is that evil? Just because I don't think that they suffer?
Yes. Oh my
How is
god.
that evil? How?
They're human beings.
Yeah,
What?
physically, so
Who's
what?
the
That
evil
doesn't mean that because they don't suffer doesn't mean that actually does anything except for has the perspective.
Oh my god.
And I don't think they do.
I don't think you have any position from which to say that. Like,
I think I absolutely do.
I think that is in itself a sociopathic claim. You're saying
No,
that
it's
these
not.
human
Just
beings,
because I don't think that they suffer,
oh my
because
god.
they're so busy making other people suffer, they don't really care. They're the one that's disassociated from actually being human.
They are
themselves
very
think that they're not.
dissociated from the
They're in
reality of a
position
lot of
they put
people's
themselves
lives,
in,
but
and I don't think that they suffer.
like, wow.
And I wouldn't be the only one. There's probably a ton of people who would agree with me. So it's not that insane of an idea. Sorry.
That doesn't make it not insane.
It's not insane.
Popularity does not make something
It's not
right.
about popularity.
Like,
I'm just saying
you
because
just
same people
made
that
the
get most-
argument of
I guess half
popularity.
the majority of the world, they are insane too, just because they don't think that rich people with a lot of money,
Yes,
a lot of luxury, a
billions
lot of
of
positions in
people.
which they actually make people suffer on motivated purpose.
Billions of people can be wrong
no.
about something, yes.
Yeah, but so everyone else is insane because they don't think that rich people
I
really
think
suffer.
that expect that the believing that other humans are not fully human is a destructive delusional
I don't
belief.
think
Yes.
that they're not really
No matter
human.
who
I think that they're
you
psychopaths.
just said that they don't suffer when people in their families die.
No, I don't think that there's going to be much suffering. They can be sad, but I don't think that they suffer. I just don't. That's not insane. To say that it is, it's crazy.
It is. You're contradicting yourself. Like,
No,
sadness
I'm not. And
is
the fact that you
suffering,
feel
dude.
weird
What
about
the
actually
fuck?
being the one having to be backing them up, well, there's a reason why you're feeling weird about it.
No, I'm arguing for the fact that they're also human.
Yeah, they're human. I never said they weren't.
That they don't suffer when people they love die. That's ridiculous.
They may be sad if people they love. I don't think they suffer. I don't.
Sadness is a kind of suffering, yo. Sadness feels bad.
I don't think it is. I think it's more extreme, and it's more out of your hands. Like, say someone dies and you don't have the ability, you don't have the money to say help, like actually keep anything or bury them. You don't have money to even properly bury them or whatever.
Like, I'm genuinely interested now.
Everything in your world is desolate and being torn down.
So someone of means cannot suffer from clinical depression?
What?
Like, somebody of means who's like, physical needs are met, their material needs are met. You never want for food or shelter or any of that shit. Can't be depressed?
I never said that.
Like, no, but I'm trying to find the edge here. I'm trying to find the edge here. So you don't agree with that?
I believe there's rich people who don't suffer. I didn't say all of them. For one, get that straight.
No, you really strongly implied it though.
Yeah,
and you're doing this Mott and Bailey thing, and I'm really not interested in the Mott and Bailey thing that you're doing. So it's fine.
Think of this. How many rich people do you think have depression?
I don't fucking know.
So then there you go. So like that's the thing. Yeah, there might be cases.
No, that's not the thing.
But I don't think that all of them do, and I think that's a fine position to have.
Oh my god. You just sat here and said over and over again that you don't think rich people suffer. Like, that's a blanket statement.
I don't think they do. I didn't say
that's
all.
a blanket statement. That's a blanket statement. Okay.
I don't think that everyone suffers, and I think that the people that don't suffer are probably have all their needs met by tenfold.
I don't think you need to have all your needs met to be a sociopath either. Like,
well, you don't have to be. That's true. A lot of sociopaths, a lot of like say serial killers, are usually fucking taking the shit out on the world because they want to be in that position of power.
Right.
And
So,
they're sociopaths
the
themselves.
black and white thinking of
It's
just,
not.
this certain group of people don't suffer human
I-
feelings. Like,
As
that's
all of it, I never
absurd.
said that though. You're putting words in my mouth.
No, you just made the
I
blanket
said I don't
statement.
think. What?
You did not qualify that statement. You said it over and over again. It did not qualify it in any
I
way.
said I
And
don't
now
think.
that I'm objecting to it logically, you're
I
like, whoa,
said
I didn't
right
say
from the
that.
beginning.
Okay.
I said right from the beginning. I don't think all people suffer. I said, yeah, if those who don't suffer are probably ones that are rich. I didn't say all of them don't.
I
You said
just
that,
sat
Tony.
here and asked you several times. So you don't
I
think
said
rich
this
people
right from the
suffer, and
beginning.
you said no.
I said right from the beginning, I don't think they all suffer. I didn't say that they all never suffer. You did.
Yeah,
You told me that's what I
Oh
said.
my
I never
God.
said that. And I don't think that they all suffer. And the ones that don't are probably the ones that have all their needs met. That's the same as saying, well, they all don't have depression. Well, then what else were they suffering from? Oh, because they're sad because a family member died?
So people who have their needs met and are capable of suffering?
Are they capable of not suffering? Yeah, they're not. They have a capacity to not to suffer. Some may do, but not all. Just like some might have depression, not all.
I was
That's
so
not black and
unprepared
white
for this
thinking.
today.
Saying that they all do is black and white thinking. Because you're saying, oh, it's all this or none. Or
No,
not at all.
I'm just saying that most people of most economic, like, people are human.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, and that
some people
suffering is a
kill a bunch of
universal.
millions of people based on what they do and their life and how they maintain it. And I don't think those people understand suffering. They're the ones creating suffering for others.
Great. I'm not talking about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. I'm talking about, the vast majority of the human race.
Yeah, I didn't say that though. I said when I say rich, I'm talking about elite rich. I'm talking about a very small amount of people rich, not just rich and on a basic level. I'm saying rich. Ones who own islands rich. Ones that fucking own like anything and everything rich. Beyond extreme measurable amounts. I don't think most of them will probably have any idea suffering other than what they know that they do to other people, because they know what they do and they create it on purpose for their own gain.
I just don't understand why I'm trying to make like a philosophical hypothetical statement and you had to come back with, well, rich people don't. I'm like, okay.
Well, I said I don't
That's
think
fine.
I didn't say that. I said I don't think all people do.
Oh, okay. But so speaking of the 99% who do, though. Okay. So sometimes you have to suffer through something and it's worth it. Right? In life. Just that's how it is, right? And sometimes you don't, because it's not. Right?
Okay.
And that's my basic thing, is that like most philosophies or religions treat suffering as a monolith, that is
something that you have to endure.
Right. That like some of it is meaningless and therefore all of it is, or some of it is meaningful and therefore all of it is. It's like we need to like split these two, in my opinion. And I think that would be much more useful. And that's it. That's really the crux of my of my argument. That's really all I wanted to say. Is that sometimes suffering is useful. And
sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
That might be something that makes sense if you think about. Well, if don't get mad. Just say, let's say some of those really, 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 really fucking rich people that don't suffer exist.
Okay.
Well, then the fact that they don't suffer, look at how they are. Look at what they do. And so they haven't had that ability and that feeling and that acknowledgement and empathy based on the fact that they don't experience any sort of type of suffering like other people do, might lead to that kind of sociopathic characteristic.
Mm-hmm.
So actually that might that might even might even like add to your thoughts on having to have some sort of suffering to have it be meaningful, right? If they
And
lack meaningfulness, maybe that's the
right.
kind of characteristic where you go.
And that's what the science is saying right now, right? Is studies are showing that like wealthier people have like less empathy, right? So,
Yeah, exactly.
uh,
And they are the
yeah,
creators and arbiters of suffering for a lot of people. And for what? For their own benefit and gain, which they don't even much need. If they have that much money, they don't need any more. But
no,
do they
right.
want it? Yes, they want it all.
I
Well,
figure that like they suffer like, oh, I broke a nail kind of suffering. You know what I mean? Like it's not anything that any of us would actually consider.
yeah, that's why I'm saying I don't think that's suffering. Even if they
But
think
to
that it is, I
them,
don't
you
think it is.
know, okay. Like I knew there had to be something wrong here. Like what the fuck? Anyway, that was fun.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it's
so
always good to have like being able to argue with someone if and not take it like to a point where it's personal.
yeah. Well, no, yeah. I'm just yeah. I was just sitting here and saying that thing that I thought that I heard you say sounds, not that there's something wrong with you. It's just like what? Like
Yeah, it does.
anyway,
I don't think it's a good thing. I think that's a bad thing. Like
yeah,
that
no.
like because look at the kind of people that are like that. Like they're they're mass murderers. Literally, they are.
Mm,
They know what they're doing and they do it anyways. It's a conscious decision. All their investments, all their investments into helping enact violence and literally kill people by their means of resources and stuff like that to gain those resources. For what? You already have everything that you could ever possibly want. You're not going to be able to spend all that money, that all those billions that you have. So
no,
why are
yeah.
you even trying to gain more when you know it's going to hurt people and literally kill them? They don't care.
That's clearly some kind of sociopathic greed, and I'm not going to argue that it isn't.
Yeah.
But so, like, I just, on the other hand, most people,
Most
like,
people, yeah, of course.
do care about, like, their family members and would suffer if they, like, died. And there's nothing that anybody can do about that, or,
Most people, I would agree with you. I think that,
you,
yeah, most people.
well, we'll talk about them. Or,
Okay.
you stub your toe in the dark and break the bitch, right? And
Oh,
there's
I've had
nothing
it where
anybody,
I've had something fall on my toe and had
right?
it like fill up, like get a black toe from it and have the nail fall off.
Ew.
That's suffering, I tell
Right,
you that.
right, yeah, and that can happen to anybody. That can happen to anybody.
But
So
might not.
I've
Sorry.
never had it. I've never that hasn't happened to me yet. Knock on wood.
Oh, it hasn't? Oh, that
No,
sucks.
no, but I have stubbed my toe and knocked it up pretty bad. So these
Yeah,
are
I was
things.
suffering actually not that long ago because I went outside um water the plants and it was already like dark because I forgot to do it because I tried to do it at dusk.
Oh
And I
yeah.
got bit to fucking hell. Oh my god. I had like literal welts from these bites. I've never been bitten where I had such a reaction before.
Oh my
Oh god,
god.
they were itchy.
Wow, this is fun. The comments are talking about suffering too. This is great.
Oh great.
And apparently we're inundated with postmodern philosophy, but are too illiterate to realize it. Like, sure, whatever. Where did you get that from? The thing that we completely miscommunicated with each other about? I would love to see what somebody got from that. Who is actually paying attention. Extreme example, but not the only time. Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I think suffering, that's what I'm trying to, okay. Philosophically speaking, suffering is a universal part of the human condition. Okay. Philosophically speaking, not politically. Philosophically. Okay.
Sorry.
because that's what I'm talking about. So I think that philosophy should be more, and religion especially should has this weird notion of like suffering is all good somehow.
Oh, no.
Or there's this other idea of like the sacrifice, right? That's a really popular idea that you can suffer now to somehow avoid suffering in an unrelated way later in the future.
I have
you
a
can
theory on that.
Okay.
My theory is basically it's a way to disarm people into just accepting and being complicit and servile, giving them a fantasy of, oh, you will be rewarded in the afterlife if you just endure it now. Well, that just, what does that mean? Well, it means that you don't do anything about the position that you are put in right now. It means you don't fight back. I
Yeah.
think that's just propaganda from a church.
Yeah.
That
On the
idea.
individual level, though, how does that like psychologically function in a person's mind? You know, why doesn't a person look at that and go, that's no fun. I don't want to do that.
I don't know. I never did.
Right. So life wasn't meant to be easy. Right. Yeah. But so some kinds of suffering like teach you things. Right. And the older you get, the more you realize that sometimes suffering is just not quite understanding the bigger picture of what the hell is going on.
I think it's what it is that is important to recognize. If there's a
right.
because the suffering might be actually forced upon not just life experience, but because someone has enacted it, because they have power over the macro level of your life, and you don't have a choice. And what gives them that right? No reason. That's that. I think it was Nietzsche. Okay, Nietzsche, I think, said the reason why suffering. I'm probably gonna butcher it, but what did he say? It's like it's not the act of suffering which people are just so disagreeable with, but mostly the senselessness of suffering. And so it's this idea that they are put in a position by other people who can shape the environment and the senselessness of it, right? So it's the senselessness of the suffering that is so like fills us with like disgust, which it should, right?
Yeah.
Like there's no reason why. Hello? As I was saying, like the senselessness of, say, Israel blowing up a bunch of people out of existence, that sort of suffering that they are imposing upon others is senseless, and that's what's really disgusting about it, right? And then things like that compared to like a natural death, or even a not natural death, just an accidental death of someone that you are close with or that is your family member, like that suffering is like there's a purpose, there's a meaning, and it happens.
Right.
And it's natural. One isn't, and one is. I think there's a big difference that needs to be explored in understanding that.
Okay, between natural and unnatural, not just meaningful and meaningless, but also natural and unnatural.
Yeah,
okay.
Natural and socially constructed. Basically.
Okay.
My 2 cents. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay. No, yeah. I mean, because there's just obviously, I think, a hard line that needs to be drawn, and like distinctions that need to be made, because you know, on the one side you have, like you say, had religion, the opiate of the masses, and whatever, forever and a day, saying, "Oh no, suffering's good, really. Just bear with us," right? And then
you'll get yours when you die.
Right? Yeah.
Something you don't want me to get mine.
Right? Yeah. Don't be doing anything now. You'll get your just right, yeah, right, yeah.
That's what it's giving.
Very much. But then you have the modern idea, which is like the flips, the reverse of that. Like, no, we're gonna live for fun. You know, there is only the here and now. There is no afterlife. Fuck all that shit.
Well, I don't think that there is.
Right, but so that doesn't mean we shouldn't think of the future, though, does it?
Well, no, because that's not an afterlife. That's just the future.
No,
even
right.
if I'm not there, it still is going to exist, and it's important.
Right, but like,
I'm talking about the afterlife as in heaven.
Right. Right.
That's different.
But so, you know, going in with like the death of God and the death of objective meaning, we have also sort of, let go of the idea of long-term planning in that way, like morally, we just kind of like, if we, avoid
I think that has a
suffering.
lot to do with the state of our socio-political state, like
Mhm.
because one of the beliefs of capitalism in itself is basically capital now. So you just do things now. You don't really. I mean, you maybe plan for immediate future, like goals, but you don't try to think of what's going on happen in say 50, 60, 70 years from now.
Because your long-term planning ends at your ROI. That's it.
Yeah.
The temporary, not the permanent. Right. And an investment sounds like this long-term thing, but what you're worried
But it's
about is
an
what
immediate future.
you're going to get back on your investment. That's why
Yeah.
you make an investment, because you
Exactly.
want a return. So once you get your return, you're not worried about whatever that was anymore.
Exactly. That's what
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Agreed.
just, not a very long-term way of thinking of things.
Yeah. But highly hyper individualism is also very capitalist. So they only see
Yeah.
in terms of what they want individually and for individual reasons at that, in life, really. You just gain for yourself, hyper focus on that. That's kind of
Right.
like how it's sort of, it's the way that they think. And
Yeah.
a lot of the way that they think they try to have us associate with as well, even though it's detrimental for the rest of us. But but it's a way to try to get it so we don't acknowledge it or even see the reality of that.
Mm.
At least that's
Sorry.
my opinion.
No, yeah, and I'm not I don't mean to disavow like the class warfare aspect of it. It's just not. I'm not trying to talk about that right now. That's all. I'm really trying to take more of a general human condition kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, but the problem with not connecting it is that the human condition is going to be affected by that, right?
No, yeah,
So
but
there's
like,
not really. It's going to be. What's the point of not connecting the actual present day constructed human person? Because like
mhm,
society will always affect you if you like you're going to be affected by any socio-political society that you either in or that actually converges with you on the outside. So there's nobody who's not affected by it, and it changes who you are because you're the one that having to like to live in that society in itself, right? So you're going to be either groomed or you're going to be affected by it in some way, and it's going to change who you are.
yeah,
So yeah, I guess.
no, I don't
Because
disagree with that. I just,
yeah, puppy.
oh, can you hear that dog barking? I'm
Oh
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fine.
there's always a dog barking around here.
How was the rest of the tree taking down for the electrical poles or whatever that was happening?
Oh my
Did they take down
god.
a lot?
Okay, not only did they absolutely mangle that tree over there to the point where if that was my yard, I'd be so angry. They
Yeah.
came on down, that was Friday, right? And then they came
Mm-hmm.
on down on Monday and they were in front of our house doing archery. And then on
Oh.
Tuesday, they were down a little bit further doing the next one. And today they're at the bottom of the hill doing that, like
Yeah.
we can't hear them at the bottom of the hill from here, but they are down there today. And they've been down there for a couple of days working on. They're just cutting all the branches that are anywhere near any of the wires.
That's what they do here. My house is surrounded by like not a tree fence or whatever, but like it's got things like trees around it so that privacy sake too. And I like the fact that it gives shade in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I think is important. And they're always coming and having to take up branches off because it's like growing right up in that pole. But there's this neighbor that I have, just not next door, but next door to him,
Mm-hmm.
that is redoing their parking lot area. And I live on a hill, right? So the parking lot goes, or parking space goes down, and then our house is down from there. So it's like a downward you go. And so they're trying to like literally flatten it out so that there's a parking space that's not on a hill. And so they've got an excavator out there. They're like, it's constant noise. And they're not even close to being finished because they have to like literally remove some of the mountain that's on and
Right.
then put
Yeah. Wow.
something in place. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's been annoying because like it's just super loud because it echoes so much around here
Mm.
because of the trees and all that, the park that's behind me.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's been annoying.
Industrial noise right in front of your
That's
house.
my
It's just
suffering for this
grand,
week.
isn't it? You're suffering for this week. Yeah. Is this just a podcast about two women complaining about somebody cutting a tree down? No. No.
No,
We were,
no,
that's
we're gonna
actually
be
from last
just our
week. They were literally like right over here from where I was trying to listen to her read from this lovely book that we're doing. So I could not really hear her and it was super annoying. And I just, you know how life is.
yeah.
Guessing
No,
just
we're gonna
random
be reading
philosophy.
doing reading, so we're just
Yeah, we're
having
going to
a
be
little bit of a
reading
talk
from a book
first.
called The Death of Nature. That's what we've been doing on, I guess it's the podcast. Suffering is probably going to be the topic of my next video because I also make videos. And I guess not everybody on YouTube does that,
And if
but
you're curious about the book, it's just about basically the sort of way of promoting and the PR to allow for more capitalist sort of exploitation. And around the time of the transatlantic sort of movement to the Americas and the creation of the scientific revolution, or not, yeah, scientific revolution, where mechanical theory and mechanical sort of understanding sort of took over a different sort of way of how and perspective of how people see society at large. But anyways, that's
that's sort of how
very general.
abandoning the cultural metaphor as like
Yeah.
nature as female has enabled us to, destroy
Or
it.
it used that actually. It used that to change the perspective of how they see women and
Hmm.
nature itself as an exploitable resource for
Well,
them.
first they twisted it and then they got rid of it. That's what it seems to me
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, yeah. So that's
Um,
what we're supposed to be talking about. Is going through the
yeah.
chapter.
And we got off we got off because I also make videos and I'm trying to come up with something original to say, dare I say. Ooh, weird, I know. There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility lies in being superior to your former self. You know what? I don't disagree with that.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Oh, you're off? All right. Well, thanks for coming. You can hear us rant about suffering.
Yeah.
But should we actually, because this might be a long one. I don't know if we're going to finish the whole chapter, but we'll try.
Oh, okay. Okay. We have a little over 2 hours. I have to go pick him up on time today because it's actually
Yep.
opening night. So their play is tonight.
So we are at chapter 3, Organic Society Utopia. So shall we get started then? Hold on. Let me just
Yeah.
put this over here.
Go for it. If I disappear, it's because I went inside to make a sandwich.
As long as you're still listening.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, chapter 3, Organic Society and Utopia. Theories about nature and theories about society have a history of interconnections. A view of nature can be seen as a projection of human perceptions of self and society onto the cosmos. Conversely, theories about nature have historically been interpreted as containing implications about the way individuals or social groups behave or ought to behave. The power of the organic metaphor derived from the unifying structure it imposed on social and cosmic reality. But as the ecology and economy of farm, forest, and fen were altered by new forms of human interaction with nature, traditional models of organic society and modes of social organization were likewise being undermined and transformed. Three variations of the organic theory of society are important to the transition from organicism to mechanicism or mechanism. The first was based on medieval society as a hierarchy. The body politic was metaphorically modeled on the organic unity of the human body, and as a hierarchy of status groups, represented a conservative view of the social order consistent with the experience of feudal lords and the medieval church. The second variation tended toward a leveling of the hierarchies and was based on the actual experience of the village community. The third, a revolutionary form of the organic theory, advocated the complete overthrow of social hierarchies. It symbolized the utopian aspirations of medieval and early modern groups for an end to the established order and its replacement by an egalitarian community in which people returned to a golden age of harmony with nature. The three variants of the organic theory, hierarchical, communal, and revolutionary, served either as ideologies for actually existing social structures or as ideals for the transformation of those structures. Excuse me. Organic society. The hierarchical model of organic society has been articulated in 1159 by John of Salisbury in his Polycraticus, based on a lost work attributed to Plutarch in 350 to 430 AD, and written by Salisbury before the 13th century recovery of Aristotle's Politics. Reflecting the cultural perspective of feudal lords and territorial princes, it conceived of the Commonwealth as a person writ large. Its body was endowed with life and ruled by reason in the form of the prince, who, together with the clergy, functioned as its soul. Judges and governors who communicated its dictates to the provinces represented its sense organs, the eyes, ears, and tongue. The good of the Commonwealth was invested in its Senate, which occupied the position of the heart. Of the hands was armed and protected this. Of the hands, one was armed and protected the citizenry from outside attack, while the other, unarmed, disciplined them from within. Both were restrained by the reason and justice of the prince. Keepers of the state's finances were confined to the stomach and intestines, who, for the body's health, must avoid anal retention and congestion of their holdings. The feet were farmers, craftspeople, and menial workers, so numerous as to cause the organism to resemble a centipede rather than a human. Each part of this vast society was indispensable to its unified purpose and function. Thus, take away the support of the feet, and it cannot move forward by its own power, but must creep painfully and shamefully on its hands, or else be moved by means of brute animals. According to Salisbury, the citizens formed a corporate community who wished to preserve the prince, because the prince, in his role, protected and gave affection to his subjects. Kitty, stop. Hold on. Just give me 2 seconds. Get out of here.
That is so cute. Oh my gosh.
I know. Get out. Move. Yeah, go. Bye. Close the door.
Oh, here's mine.
She won't stop if she gets started. Oh,
look
yeah.
at the girl.
I wish mine would do that. She wants me to take her out for a walk.
You take your cat for walks?
Yeah.
No. Neat.
You're not allowed to have cats outside unleashed.
Oh.
And if you do, there's been people in the around this neighborhood who've actually set up poison for them. Yeah. There's been lots of like cat murders around by.
Oh my god. There's a little lady who lives a couple houses up from me who feeds the stray cats. Oh my god.
Yeah, I know. I would feed them, but these people sometimes feed them with poison, so you have to be careful. And I've had issues of like cars like hitting cats too, and I'm just not gonna be worrying over that. I'm so
right.
Or
I think
having to take it to the pound because someone called it in, or poisoned because some guy's a
oh
grumpy
my
psycho.
god. No kidding. I think it's more rural here.
Yeah.
People definitely have a very relaxed attitude towards the
Well,
animals
they
around
should.
here.
It's just cats. Like, come on, people. But
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so where was I? Sorry. Okay, here we go. Oh. According to Salisbury, the citizens formed a corporate community who wished to preserve the prince because the prince in his role protected and gave affection to his subjects. A faithful and firm cohesion existed only in conjunction with the enduring union of wills and a cementing together of souls. Tyranny by the prince or magistrates would effectively add such weight to the head as to render the body incapable of supporting or result in a suicidal slashing of the throat. The happiness of no body politic will be lasting unless the head is preserved in safety and vigor. Due to the interconnectedness and mutual dependence of its parts, an injury to the head is brought home to all the members, and a wound unjustly inflicted on any member tends to the injury of the head. The medieval theory of society thus stressed the whole before the parts, while emphasizing the inherent value of each part, each particular part. The unity of the one was of higher value than the objectives of the many. The connection between the parts was integrated through a universal harmony pervading the whole. This organic cement bound together the macrocosm, the community, and the parts of each individual being or microcosm. John of Salisbury illustrated these harmonic bonds of the Commonwealth by the comparison of harmony in the community to harmony in the musical instrument. Just as musicians tune their strings skillfully and gently to create harmony out of discord rather than breaking them through too much tension. So the prince, as soul of the Commonwealth, must achieve a fine tuning between strictness and mercy so that the minds of all his subjects can be brought together in one perfect harmony. And just as the world soul held together the cosmic sphere, so the human soul represented unity among bodily parts. In the cosmic hierarchy, each subordinate whole was itself an interconnected system of parts, bound in turn to a larger, more comprehensive whole above it. The organic society was to be modeled on nature's prime examples of communal colonies, bees and ants. Civil life should imitate nature, as exemplified by the political constitution of the bee. All workers must join together in common to produce welfare for the whole, and sweetness in the honey while the queen superintends. Care must be taken that the workers continue to produce diligently and do not indulge in luxury lest the citizens become effeminate and bow their necks to manly valor. Okay. Oh, John's from Salisbury. Interesting. In articulating the analogy between commonwealth and a person, Salisbury's theory of society stressed the political and psychological interdependence and integration of the citizens within the whole, as well as the hierarchical relationship among the parts of the human body and the body politic. The translation of Aristotle's Politics into Latin in 1260 and its incorporation into the systematic philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas amplified Salisbury's organic concept of the state. Aquinas, Aquinas presented an integrated system of nature and society based, like Salisbury's, on hierarchical gradations. Each part had its own place, rights, duties, and value, which together contributed to the perfection of the whole universal community. Both nature and society were composed of parts, so that the purpose or end of the lower was to serve the higher, while that of the higher was to guide the lower toward the common moral good. Each part sought the perfection of its own particular nature, growing and developing from within. I just want to point out that, yeah, but what regulates the head doesn't always necessarily, you know, these people were like incestuously created. A lot of them didn't have much going on there in the head themselves to be the head. I just wanted to point that out.
No, yeah, and that's like part of the flaw in this whole theory, right? Is because if you can
Yeah,
only if these parts are, discreetly limited to one another, eventually you end up with like literal inbreeding.
yeah, yeah. Well, that there's no like if it's the head, it has all the control. You're expecting them to have affection and to the community. Well, that's going to be hard to maintain when you give them so much power
Right.
to be directed, and not because of merit, just because of bloodline. incestuous bloodline.
Right, which became like this shorthand for merit, because obviously merit's in the blood, right?
Right, supposedly. Yeah.
I don't know exactly. Maybe this is my moderness talking, modernity talking. I don't quite understand that mindset.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just a way to try to make sense of that order, but
Yeah.
then using nature and kind of making an analogy out of that. So what came before, like seriously, like what came first? The analogy and then the creation of it, or was it the creation of it and then a justification for it? Right?
That could be the kind of thing that could have several answers, because I mean,
Yeah, exactly, right?
my favorite theory is the guy who, the delusional psychopath who like amassed all that wealth in the first place, told the story about himself and believed his own shit. Like that's my
Yeah,
theory. So
yeah,
sort of both. But
yeah, yeah, kind of. All
that's
right,
my
so
feeling on how it
let's
tended
keep
to go.
going. Let's keep going. I just had to point that out there because it just stuck in my mind. On this model, monarchy was the form of political organization most natural to the cosmic and divine order. Monarchy derived its authority by divine right from God. There you go. And distributed that authority to the various social estates through civil law. The medieval sovereign represented God in the temporal realm, the church his will in the spiritual realm. For the philosopher Nicholas of Cusa, uh, the church was the body of God, the clergy its soul, and God its all-pervading, unifying spirit. The clergy held the corporeal body of the church together, each part of the body having its own portion of the soul in a hierarchical ordering. The papacy represented the soul of the brain, the patriarchate the soul in the ears and eyes, the archiepiscopate the soul in the arms, the episcopate the soul in the fingers, and so on.
That's really specific.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Medieval philosophy is amazing.
In 16th century England, where the organic metaphor was pervasive, every conceivable analogy between the parts of the body and the body politic was explored. Lungs, liver, gall, bladder, and kidneys all had their correspondences. Interesting. The belly in Shakespeare's
Is it
play
weird that these
Coriolanus.
people are taking these metaphors so literally? Do they not understand what a metaphor is? Is this a
Yeah,
result of like some scholarly person came up with a metaphor and then it ended up being like taught to a bunch of like nursery age children, right? Who took it
yeah,
fucking literally and then grew up and that's their worldview, and like that, like, is that
yeah. I don't know.
weird?
Teacher on that, like how, like I would be
Yeah,
interested to
why
see
is it why
how and
metaphor
why
being taken super literally? I think
came to be
that's
that
very
way.
interesting. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's okay. It is. It's interesting. Um, the belly in Shakespeare's play Coriolanus, first produced in 1607, discourses at length about its importance in storing, digesting, and distributing food to all parts of the body, just as the Romans had to digest matters affecting the commonwealth for the public benefit. In Henry the what? I'm so good at Roman. I'm so bad at Roman numerals. It's Henry V. Whatever
The
V is.
fifth.
Thank you.
You got it.
Too many Henrys. In
Agreed.
Henry V, first produced in 1598, the Archbishop of Canterbury compares civil society to a beehive from which social order can be learned. For most Elizabethans, democracy was an ugly hydra and a many-headed monster, in which the feet of the mob had attacked the head. Hmm. The hierarchical form of the organic model was consistent with a political ideology that emphasized order and stability, and can be placed at the conservative or right end of the political spectrum. The interests of the state assumed central importance in comparison to the individual parts. The whole was greater than the sum of the parts, but could be ontologically different from them. The common interest and happiness of the state could be different from the interests and happiness of the individual members of their sum. The hierarchical variant depended on inequalities among the members and did not concern itself with equal rights or economic standards, since different parts of the social organism had different economic functions of differing importance to the whole. Each status group or rank performed its own function and received an appropriate reward without expectation of changing its power or position as a result. The labor force, comprising the feet of the organism, was tied directly to the land, while land itself was transferred within families of the nobility and gentry, usually on the basis of primogeniture, inheritance by the eldest son. And where is it? Oh. We've got a picture. The organic bonds within a land-owning family lay not in familial affection or emotional satisfaction, but solely in the economics of the kinship bond. Genetic relationships held together large networks of kin whose mutual interests lay in maintaining the long-term economic and social status of the family group. Power within the family was hierarchical, with the eldest son frequently in the position of simply waiting for his father to die before assuming control, while the youngest faced little prospect of inheriting the estate. And I just want to stop there and see that's one of the reasons why maybe they don't suffer is because they get a benefit from the death of their family members.
Okay, two things can be true.
Just wanted to just laughing.
No, I mean, there's like, I mean, I don't even. Okay.
I'm just being silly. Okay, I'm sorry. Where was I? But 16th century social changes had already begun to shatter this hierarchical model. Although mobility was not absent from the medieval society, the growth of a market economy in both wage labor and property produced more upwardly as well as downwardly mobile individuals, undermining the integrative ideology of the hierarchical model. An increase in the father's power within within the nuclear family accompanied a decline in kinship economic functions in the wider family structure. The rise of politically powerful nation states magnified the role of the head of state, distorting the ideal set forward by Salisbury. Well, because he started off wrong. Sorry. Should stop interjecting, but anyways.
See, I disagree entirely. I think it's much more entertaining when we do it that way.
Oh, okay. So I'll keep interjecting my.
Maybe that's just because I'm one of us, and I think we're cool. You know.
Yeah, I think we're cool.
I think it's more entertaining when there's more of us in. That's me.
Yeah, our opinions matter, and they're funny. Okay, Jean Bodin, French political theorist, and King James I of England, both modified Salisbury's model in justifying the new authority of the head in the emerging nations. See how they change it to change the analogies too? So, like, to justify positions, that says something.
Well, it says that the cause and effect is reversed in the rhetoric from what it actually is.
Yeah.
It's just straight up untrue.
Yeah. Bodin enlarged the absolute and perpetual power of the sovereign over citizens and subjects. Nobles and merchants qualified for citizenship. Artisans and retailers did not. But equality, even among the citizens, was absurd. Women were subject to the authority of the father and were unfit for public affairs. Female rulers like Mary, Queen of Scots, and Elizabeth I of England had overturned the natural order. Succession to the throne should descend through the male line, since nature had deprived women of strength, foresight, pugnancy, and authority. In Bodin's idea, Bodin's treatise was a conservative defense of the authority of absolute monarchy in response to the disruptive social tendencies of the French wars of religion. So he's trying to retain that order. Asshole. James I of England, who enlarged the patriarchal authority of the head of the kingdom. Quote, the king towards his people is rightly compared to a father of children and to a head of a body composed of diverse members. As the discourse and direction flows from the head, So it is betwixt a wise prince and his people. End quote. If disease in one part of the body affected the other organs, the head might be forced to, quote, cut off some rotten members to keep the rest of the body in integrity, end quote. Well, maybe I had some idea about what family fucking um, emotions of their individual members. Maybe I was onto something. Call them rotten and to needing to cut them off. Anyways, in ironic anticipation of the beheading of successor Charles I, James queried, quote, but what state the body can be in if the head be cut off, I leave to the reader's judgment, end quote. Probably a good thing, but I don't know. The magnification of the role and power of the head undercut the integrative bonds of the organic analogy and was symptomatic of social transformations that would hasten its dissolution as a primary metaphor. By the mid 17th century, political theorist Thomas Hobbes would use it to describe as a person a state that was in reality a cleverly contrived machine. Machine. While organismic social thought did not die out completely, after the 17th century, atomistic and mechanical metaphors began to describe the emergence of a pluralism of interest groups in democratic societies. 20th century ecology emerged from the intellectual framework historically associated with an organic approach to nature and society, employing the hierarchical variant of the organic model. Ecologists in the early decades of this century used concepts such as organic community, mutual interdependence, and evolution toward higher forms on a hierarchical scale to provide an understanding not only of the organization of bacterial colonies, grassland climax vegetation, and bee and ant communities, but also of human tribal societies and the world economy. They stressed an evolution toward greater cooperation on a worldwide basis and argued that nature could provide the model for an ethic of human sharing, integration, and unity. But the emergence of fascist tyranny based on centralized organismic model glorifying the father as absolute dictator undermined the evolutionary hierarchical component of the argument, and ecology turned into a mathematically reductionist direction. Interesting. Organic community. Whereas the medieval hierarchical model emphasized distinctions in status and estates, a second variation of the organic theory, growing out of peasant experience and village culture, was based on the leveling of differences and stressed, instead, the primacy of community, the collective will of the people, and the idea of internal self regulation and consent. Here, the communal whole was still greater and more important than the sum of the parts. But the parts were of equal or nearly equal value. Ideas that stressed the common consent of the people and mutual will of the community represented a formulation of the organic theory at the communal or socialist end of the political spectrum. Despite numerous variations in local rural social stratification and economic patterns, the peasant society of much of Western Europe can accurately be described in terms of the cohesive community responsibilities and common traditions and exemplifies the communal variant of the organic model. In the communal variant, both the law of God and nature dictated an original equality among the parts of the village community, cooperative land use, and communal sharing of tools and goods. Moreover, the body of the people had the right to choose its own head by the elective right. Consent of the community must validate the actions of the village officials who remained parts of the whole and subordinate to it. The principles of people's sovereignty, internal self regulation, and decision making formed the political rationale for the peasant rebellions that challenged the reassertion of authority by landlords when traditional balances between land and peasant were upset. Although a spectrum of actual communal forms existed in the thousands of European rural village communities, the unifying principle common to all was the good of the group over that of the individual. The early territorial communes, composed of families living on individual holdings in spatial proximity, shared natural resources that were managed by local elected officials. The village communes that gradually replaced them further reinforced cooperation and group unity by adding land and plow animals to the shared resources and by adding the regulation of pasture and plowing to the duties of the corporate officials. The tradition of village cohesiveness overrode divisiveness and quarreling among individual inhabitants. Agrarian co- agrarian communism in such villages reached a new level of cooperation with the introduction of compulsory tillage in response to population increases and land shortages. All persons in the village plowed, planted, and harvested at the same time in order to increase productivity. In many Central European communities, as families groups split, land was periodically redistributed to equalize the fertility, productivity, and accessibility of plots. These variations on the model of the organic community were established widely over most of medieval and early modern Europe, surviving in much of the Central and Eastern Europe well into the 18th and 19th centuries. Between the two poles of organic hierarchy and communal consent lay a number of political possibilities, exemplified in church, state, and intellectual doctrine. One variant, for example, de emphasized rule by the head and held that the community or town was composed only of qualified citizens, excluding the undifferentiated masses. An assembly of representatives made decisions for the larger community and was responsible to it. Reformation sects also drew on the organic theory of formulating the ideal of corporate Christian community. Like the hierarchical variant, the communal model was undermined by the growth of a market economy based on property rights and exchanges in land and money. Advances in agricultural improvement and the growth of rural industry broke down communal farming practices and the communal control of resources. By the 17th century, John Locke, in his theory of property rights, could challenge the idea that communal ownership of all parts of the earth was given forever by the laws of nature and scripture. The acquisition of land worked by an individual's own labor became that person's individual property. Quote, as much land as a man tills, plants, improves, cultivates, and can use the product of, so much is his property. He, by his labor, does, as it were, enclose it from the common. End quote. By mixing human labor with the acorns, apples, beasts, and earth that, quote, nature, the common mother of all, end quote, had given, people removed these spontaneous products from the common and made them and the land their own property. In creating the world, God had commanded, quote, man to subdue the earth, and in doing so, he gave authority to appropriate private possessions. And hence, subduing or cultivating the earth and having dominion, we see, are joined together, the one gave title to the other, end quote. Were it not for money, gold, silver, diamonds, that fancy our agreement hath put value on, any surplus products would perish and land itself would remain unimproved. Oh, sure. Exchange of gold and silver for land and its products was preferable to simple barter because the metals, quote, may be hoarded up without injury to anyone. These metals not spoiling or decaying in the hands of the possessor, end quote. So you're claiming you need to hoard them. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, right. For their own good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting.
It always ends up being for your own good, doesn't it?
Of course. Of course. Interesting. Well, land planted with useful products, wheat, barley, tobacco, and sugar, was of greater value than unimproved land from the common. A market for the products was also essential. Quote, what would a man value 10,000 or 100,000 acres of excellent land, ready cultivated and well stocked, too, with cattle, in the middle of the inland parts of America, where he had no hopes of commerce with the other parts of the world, to draw money to him by the sale of the product, end quote. Without a market, it would not be worth the time and labor to grow anything over the subsistence level. A market economy based on money exchanges, property rights, agricultural improvement, and the domination of the earth would thus undercut the theory as well as the practice of organic community. I bet it does. What a dick. Just saying. What a dick. Organic utopias. A third variation of the organic model expressed the needs of peasants and artisans for social revolution. The utopian Millerian tradition called for the complete overthrow of the established social order and its replacement by an egalitarian communal society and state of nature, like that anticipated during the millennium, a 1,000-year period when Christ would reign on earth and Satan would be banished. The Millerian movements had a historical continuity dating from the medieval crusades of the poor. Joachim of Fior and the Brethren of the Free Spirit, the Amurians, Thomas Munster, and the Anabaptists, to the religious sects of the English Civil War, seekers, ranters, levelers, antinomians, and Mongolotonians. These groups, along with the intellectuals who identified with them, shared a belief in the emergence of a new age of liberty and love in which God would appear from within and there would be equal sharing of food, clothing, and property among all people. At various times and places, leaders and groups emerged to try to hasten the arrival of the Millennium Age and to create communities based on an egalitarian state of nature and communal ownership of wealth. The reasons for failure ranged from military defeat by the forces of the church or state to betrayal by the leaders of the rebellion. Millenarianism represented a pre industrial form of social revolution. It differed from the movements of the Industrial Revolution by preparing people through revelation to accept revolutionary change, as opposed to politicizing the working class. Signs in the heavens, prophets and saviors would appear predicting the arrival of the millennium. For example, persisting since the Middle Ages was a prophecy that Frederick I, King of Germany, would be resurrected. He had died in 1190 on the Third Crusade and was idealized as a savior of the poor who would bring with him a communal state. He would banish the Pope as Antichrist and destroy his cohorts, the clergy, the wicked, and the rich, well fed laity. Throughout the Middle Ages, prophets had written, had written, yeah. Throughout the Middle Ages, prophets and written manifestos sustained revolutionary influences and the real hopes of the poor for a new social order. In the early 17th century, two utopian plans, Tommaso Campanella's City of the Sun, published in 1602, and Johann Valentin Andrea's Christianopolis, published 1619, articulated a philosophy of communal sharing that responded to the interests of artisans and the poor for a more egalitarian distribution of wealth, based on an original harmony between people and nature. They contrast markedly with the third utopia, The New Atlantis by Francis Bacon, published in 1627, which undermined and transformed the concept of an organic utopian community. Yet historians have largely emphasized the similarity of the three works for the emergence of modern science and educational theory. As we shall see later, Bacon's ideas were rooted in an emerging market economy that tended to widen the gap between upper and lower social classes by concentrating more wealth in the hands of merchants, clothiers, entrepreneurial adventurers, and almond farmers through the exploitation and alteration of nature for the sake of progress. Andreas and Campanella's utopian communities postulated a more egalitarian view of woman and man, artisan and master, than Bacon's more hierarchical and patriarchal community. But Bacon's inductive methodology, which helped to establish a precedent by which all persons could verify the truth for themselves, was also fundamental to the growth of egalitarianism. From the perspective of today, there are both positive and negative aspects to Campanella's and Andreas' utopias. Some of their ideas are basic to subsequent back to the land utopian movements that have rejected the division of labor and the alienation of people from productive work brought about by capitalist modes of economic organization. Yet Campanella advocated a program of eugenics considered represent Andrea's ideal society was based on rigid Calvinist moralism. Tommaso Campanella followed the Renaissance naturalist philosopher Bernardino Telesio in his belief that God was eminent with nature and that all matter was alive. Change was explained by the dialectical whirring of the opposites, heat and cold, as source of the dynamic motion of matter. In his attempt to establish an ideal society based on holistic presuppositions about nature, Campanella in 1599 led a revolutionary movement to overthrow Spanish rule in Naples and the entire province of Calabria in southern Italy. Portents in the heavens predicting the event of the millennium indicated to him the necessity of immediate political overthrow and the fusion of all religious sects as the world returned to the golden age of simple, natural, primitive faith. The new society would liberate the people from the tyrannical slavery of political and religious usurpers and establish communal property and rule by brotherhood. A new, unique God, eminent in nature, would be revealed, coupled with the true spiritual religion, which, rather than debasing nature, would exalt it as a divine artisan. Under a new social rule, body and spirit would function in harmony. Signs of the heavens indicated that the millennium was near, and it was important to prepare the people of Calabria for a new city of God, in which all of humanity would live in health and sainthood. In anticipation, the community had to be freed from Spanish domination. Inspired by Campanella's words, people and nobles would unite in armed rebellion. Conditions in Naples were ripe for revolt. All classes of society was fraught with internal dissension. The people were angry about inequalities and social conditions and fiscal measures. The lords were unhappy with the government of the viceroy. Papacy and bishops were overwhelmed with juridical questions. Of the 70,000 people in Naples, 10,000 to 15,000 laborers were worn and driven by toil. In preparation for the revolt, Campanella began preaching to large audiences and describing in eloquent terms the meaning of the signs of the heavens. His objective was to convert the people to a true spiritual religion, which would lie at the foundation of his ideal republic. Aided by the voice of his friend Dionisio Ponzio and the energy of the nobleman Maurizio de Renalis, the conspirators prepared to deliver the country from the tyranny of Spain by an uprising in Cantazero, near the tip of Italy, and an armed attack on the Chateau de Rena. By the end of August 1599, everything was ready for the revolt. In a fiery speech to the companions on the mountain of Stilo, Campanella proclaimed victory and described the happiness that would belong to all in the perfect city built by their communal efforts. But the plans were shattered by the arrival of the troops of the Spanish viceroy, who arrested Campanella and his co-conspirators on September 6, 1599. Campanella was captured and taken to Naples in chains, charged with heresy and conspiracy, and thrown into prison. He was retained for 27 years, during which time he was tortured 4 times. Most of his voluminous works, including the Utopian City of the Sun, were written while in prison without access to books and under deplorable physical conditions. In the early years of his life, Campanella was a revolutionary who developed concrete plans for a better society and actively attempted to carry them out. After years of imprisonment by the Spanish Inquisition, he was released for a short time in 1626, but within a month was arrested and held prisoner in the Vatican until 1629. He spent the end of his life in France, where he received protection from the Cardinal Richelieu, in whom he had by then placed his hope for a unified world. His final allegiance to Pope Urban the Eighth, I think, the Eighth Pope from 1623 until 1644, and the French monarchy, in which he exchanged rebellion for protection and the freedom to publish and lecture, represented a conservative end to his revolutionary career. Valentin Andrea must be categorized as a reformer rather than a revolutionary, yet his reforms, like those of Campanella, were directed toward the creation of an egalitarian society. His Christianopolis, published in 1619, described a utopian society in which the labor of all people was equalized and educational training existed for both sexes. Like Campanella, Andrea was serious about making his utopian Christianopolis a social reality. In 1620, he moved to Calwa in the Black Forest, where, as a Lutheran pastor, he formed a social system that expanded from a congregational court into a larger community. At the basis of his society was a union of textile and dye workers in the Calwa textile industry, consisting initially of 13 families. The families, known as the Faberstift, all contributed money toward the education of the young, especially for orphans and the children of the poor, the operation of a library, care of the sick, elderly, and widowed, and support for the community church and its services. The emphasis on educational advancement by reformers such as Andrea and the Sheikh John Amos Comenius soon spread to England, where it influenced the circle known as Invisible College, which included such 17th century scientists and educators as Samuel Hartlib, John Drury, Theodore Hack, and Robert Boyle, preparing the way for England's first scientific society, the Royal Society of London, founded in 1660. It's still going on today. The social context within which Campanella and Andrea initially proposed their utopian communities suggests that these societies were responses to the real needs of 17th century people for change, and that both authors put forward these ideals as serious alternatives to existing social conditions. These communal societies are representative of an organic philosophy that placed people within rather than above nature. They represent ideals in many ways as inspiring to us today as we search for antidotes to the of urbanization and industrialism, as they were to 16th century reformers trying to alter the power relations of hierarchical society. Holism. The people of Campanella's City of the Sun were to dwell in an organic, holistic cosmos. Their earth was like an animal, drawing its source of motion from within and was alive with blood from its bowels. As in the Hermetic Emerald Tablet, the earth is considered to be mother and the sun a father. Quote. They assert two principles of the physics of things below, namely that the sun is the father and the earth the mother. The air is an impure part of the heavens. All fire is derived from the sun. The sea is the sweat of the earth, or the fluid of earth combusted and fused within its bowels, but is the bond of union between air and earth, as the blood is of the spirit and flesh of animals. The world is a great animal, and we live within it as worms live within us. Recognized today, end quote. Sorry. Recognized today as keys to viable ecosystems in nature are the interrelationships and organic unity among a system's parts and the maintenance of ecological diversity in native and traditional cultures which sustain equilibrium with their environments. Rules, rituals, and religious practices have the latent function of preventing overuse of resources and overpopulation. In the City of the Sun, such principles subtly guided community norms and practices. Nature was an organic whole in which both natural and human cycles were integrated. Agricultural practices and animal breeding were performed in harmony with the seasonal cycles, a marked contrast, as we shall see, with Bacon's New Atlantis. Only land necessary for survival was cultivated. Groves and woods were retained for wild animals. The breeding of oxen, sheep, hens, ducks, and geese took place in harmony with natural cycles of the winds and the seasonal rising of certain propitious stars and constellations. The holistic principles on which the community would base its life also operated on an individual human scale. Diversity in diet was considered essential to the maintenance of a healthy body. Food alternated from flesh to fish in order that the food stocks might not be depleted and nature might, quote, never be incommodated or weakened, end quote. The number of meals per day varied with age in order that nature might be satisfied. Quote, their food consists of flesh, butter, honey, cheese, garden herbs, and vegetables of various kinds. They were unwilling at first to slay animals because it seemed cruel, but thinking afterward that it was also cruel to destroy herbs which have a share of sensitive feeling, they saw that they would perish from hunger unless they did not unjustifiable action for the sake of justifiable ones. And so now they all eat meat. Nevertheless, they do not willingly kill useful animals such as oxen and horses. Hold on, my cat is scratching at the door. End quote, by the way.
You don't say.
Go. I'll be right back. Go. You can go upstairs. Go. Yeah, you can go upstairs. I will try to eat, okay? You are being had to throw her ass upstairs. Okay. Where was I? Like the holistic health movements of today, which draw on ancient and Renaissance organismic principles, the natural harmonies of the body were maintained through nature's medicines. I just want to point out, I keep wanting to say orgasmic. when I
Guys, I got something on your mind there, Kat.
I don't think so, but like it just keeps wanting to come out that way.
Ah.
Anyways, Okay. Herbs were used as mild natural cures for illness, harsh purgatives being advocated only rarely. The body itself was treated as a whole rather than a sum of separate parts. It was kept in tune through a program of regular gymnastics. Health, a delicate balance of the four humors, could be strengthened through the use of natural teas made from wild thyme, mint, basil, crushed garlic, or vinegar. Ew, tea made of vinegar? Pleasant baths, pleasant baths, removal to the country, and mild exercise were recommended for the curing of fevers. People ate only according to the requirements of their own bodies, as determined by age and activity. Thus, the general community took meals twice a day, while the aged ate 3 times, consuming more easily digestible foods. Boys, while young and active, required 4 meals a day. Proper diet, sufficient exercise, and cleanliness formed the basis of a program of healthcare based on preventative medicine. The stress on organic unity in agriculture, the body was also manifested in the relation between cosmos and city. City planning and environmental design formed an important aspect of the holistic character of the City of the Sun. The city itself was a miniature replica of the larger macrocosm. The Temple of the Sun on a hill in the center of the city was surrounded by 7 circular walls, representing the 7 circular planets and named for them. 4 streets and 4 gates orientated the community to the 4 points of the compass. The circular temple in the center was a small model of the plane of the heavens. Science, often viewed today as a separate and isolated discipline, was an integral part of the daily lives and education of the Solarians. Both sides of the city walls were painted with representations and diagrams from the natural sciences. Thus, the mechanical arts, their uses and inventors were depicted on the innermost wall, with mathematical propositions and definitions on the
I'm sorry, I
outermost.
missed it. Where are we talking about now?
This is what is City of the Sun, which is Campanella's work, what he would have wanted
Oh, it's
to,
okay.
that
Okay.
his ideal utopian society. This is his image of it.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Where was I? Okay, yeah. Thus, the mechanical arts, their uses, and inventors were depicted on the innermost wall, with mathematical propositions and definitions on the outermost. On the walls between were paintings of all the known precious metals and stones, trees and herbs, fresh and saltwater fishes, birds, mammals, insects, worms, and serpents. Accompanying the picture of each specimen was a description of its properties, locations, habits, methods of production or breeding, medical uses, and value to the human race. The harmonies and influences of the macrocosm could be absorbed by each person, not only during worship in the temple, but also in daily life within the city itself. Renaissance Neoplatonic theory held that pictorial and symbolic representations of the heavenly bodies, infused by the influences of the stars through the spiritus mundi, or spirit of the world, could transmit their powers to the beholder. In this way, the soul of each individual could be made more consonant with the cosmos and integrated within the larger universe. The plan of the city was thus consciously designed to bring people into greater harmony with their larger organic environment. These same holistic principles integrated Valentin Andrea's ideal city, Christianopolis. Christianopolis was located on a triangular island that, like the City of the Sun, was a world in miniature and was inhabited by people with common ideals and principles. The island was, quote, rich in grain and pasture fields, watered with rivers and brooks, adorned with woods and vineyards, full of animals, just as if it were a whole world in miniature. One might think that here the heavens and the earth had been married and were living together in everlasting peace, end quote. In contrast to the circular plan of the City of the Sun, Christianopolis was set out in the form of a square orientated to the 4 corners of the world. Fresh air and ventilation, flowing water, and springs contributed to its healthy atmosphere. Come on, open. Moats were stocked with fish, and open, unused spaces for wild animals were maintained. The city itself was a compact unit compact unit, each part serving a specific function necessary for the good of the whole. Fresh, clear water flowed through the town and supplied the houses. Underground canals removed daily wastes from the house for the sake of public health and pleasant surroundings. Andrea believed that people were not beasts sent to, quote, merely devour the pastures of the earth, end quote. They were admonished to use it moderately, with gratitude, and with exact observation. The science laboratory, therefore, taught the details of natural history through a visual memory system. Painted on the walls of the Hall of Physics were detailed pictures of animals, plants, rocks, and gems, the human races, and natural regions of the earth. Children learned the names, classes, and uses of herbs through play so that through exact observation they would be able to recognize them in nature. Other pictures on the walls of the pictorial art shop showed the various regions of the earth, sketches of machines and statistics, perspective and engineering fortifications.
These guys seem
Astrom-
to all really love murals,
yeah, right?
which, like, I'm not
Everywhere.
against it. You know, it beats a lot of shit we got.
Yeah, but like, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when it comes to the way that it's actually like structure is formed with the canals and all that, really
Yeah.
remind me of actually the Aztecs and the Mayans or whatever.
That's who I thought you were talking about at first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're talking about their perspective, what they were
That's
trying
crazy.
to like wanted to create, or what they had an ideal of the society should
Yeah.
look like, kind of thing. Yeah,
Well, and like
but it does remind me a lot of the Aztecs and all that shit. They had all those cool,
yeah. And the
yeah,
murals are
the way
like,
that it was maintained was really like healthy and clean, and it really like interacted well with the actually outside nature because they like embedded itself in it. They didn't try to
right,
just take it. Yeah,
right. There's definitely an element of that that's fairly really interesting and pretty
yeah,
nice. But like the murals are like an almost like an adaptation of like the medieval thing of like, you know, the stained glass windows and like the stonework that like,
yeah. That's probably where they're taking a lot from their ideas from too, right?
yeah,
From
but like
that
because
sort
like
of
if it's a literate society, then you could just like literally print the stuff.
yeah.
It's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's neat. It's neat. It's interesting. Where was I? Other pictures. No, I did that. Okay, astronomical instruments like those developed by Tycho Brahe were used for observations of the stars. Diagrams of the heavens illustrated their motions, harmonies, and the locations and shapes of individual planets and stars. In the chemical science laboratory, the properties of metals, minerals, and vegetables were studied that they might be used for the improvement of health and for the human race. Around the college were gardens containing the living herbarium of 1,000 kinds of plants used for medicines, cooking, and decoration, as well as extensive gardens outside the walls for food crops. Andrea's community, nature was aped in order for that her principles might be emulated and the earth and sky married together. Science served the human interest in Christianopolis because it was taught to all people in the community and because it was used in conjunction with natural harmonies rather than for exploitative purposes. Nature was not altered and tortured as it would be in the laboratories of Bacon's New Atlantis, but observed and emulated. Natural science and the mechanical arts in the City of the Sun and in Christianopolis served the artisans and peasants because of the high status accorded them in the community and because of the great regard paid to the crafts and manual arts. So I guess with the whole like um, idea of like putting them to use for their own understanding as well, using them to create these murals, I guess, right? And where it's not always printed, but actually painted a picture so that they have an understanding instead of if they were illiterate. I don't know. Maybe that's one of the reasons what they were doing that for. Just an observation.
Maybe. Regardless, I think it's really cool.
It's interesting. Work. One of the most serious human problems brought about by industrial capitalism has been the psychological alienation caused by a person's daily labor for wages in a business or industry owned by another individual who reaps both money and a higher standard of living as a result. A not too different alienation is found in modern socialist and communist societies in which the extensive bureaucracy required to manage industry also intrudes between worker and product. The unity of a meaningful life with productive hands-on work lost to thousands of people at the bottom of today's society was integral to Andrea's ideal organic city. In Christianopolis, manual labor was called employment of the hands. All people spent equal amounts of time at work and at leisure. Work benefited than harmed by the body, or rather than harmed the body. Quote, for among us, i.e., the outsiders, one is worn out by the fatigue of an effort. With them, the powers are reinforced by a perfect balance of work and leisure so that they never approach a piece of work with alacrity. They have very few working hours, yet no less is accomplished than in other places, and it is considered disgraceful by all that one should take more rest and leisure time than it is allowed. End quote. The rise of modern science has been attributed by some historians to the attention given by Renaissance scholars to the empirical and mechanical skills of the artisan class. Andrea's Christianopolis reflects this interest but goes beyond the idea of merely making use of their techniques to honoring the people themselves. Craftspeople were the backbone of the community and greatly respected. They included, quote, workers in brass, tin, iron, knife makers, turners, makers of jewel cases, of statuary, workers in gypsum, fillers, weavers, furriers, cobblers, and among the nobler crafts, sculptors, clockmakers, goldsmiths, or organ makers, engravers, gold leaf beaters, ring makers, and innumerable other like trades not to be despised. Tanners, harness makers, blacksmiths, wagon makers, trunk makers, stone cutters, glass makers, all these you will find here. End quote. Excuse me. The city plan itself was based on the total integration of all aspects of life with productive work. 1/3 of the city was designed for the production and storing of food, 1/3 for exercise, and 1/3 for scenic beauty. Of the portion designated for production, the farming and agricultural lands faced the east, the mills and bake shops south. The meat preparation and kitchen areas were in the northern districts, while the metal forges lay to the west. Quote, for the whole city is, as it were, one single workshop, but of all different sorts of crafts. End quote. In Christianopolis, all citizens, including artisans and workers, received the same education that they might understand the theoretical foundation for their own work, because they were trained in the scientific basis of their trade. They understood and found, quote, delight in their inner parts of nature, end quote. Each individual engaged in both manual and mental activity. Mind and body were of equal importance, manual and intellectual work inseparable. Quote, this feature is entirely peculiar to them, namely that their artisans are almost entirely educated. Men, for that which other people think is the proper characteristic of a few. This the inhabitants argue should be attained by all individuals. They say neither the subtleness of letters is such, nor yet the difficulty of work that one man, if given enough, cannot master both. And yet there are some who incline more to this or to that occupation who, if they prefer to make a especially a speciality, are masters over their fellows, that they may in turn train up others and still others. Unquote. In the context of 16th century society, in which literary skills and education were available, mainly to the upper classes and some of the bourgeoisie, advocating equal education for workers as well as intellectuals was a revolutionary and an innovative ideal. Within a framework in which the good of the whole took priority over that of the economic gain of any individual parts, Andrea recognized the importance of individual incentive, pride in one's work, and the rewards of competition. Thus, some workers received recognition as master craftspeople. Inventive genius was valued and encouraged, and the human need for competition and reward among artisans was recognized and provided for. In the City of the Sun, as in Christianopolis, the manual arts were held in high esteem. The greatest value was placed on the metal and building occupations because these required the most labor. Slightly less esteem was accorded to anyone skilled in the manual arts, while the lowest, although still a noble grade, was assigned to those having knowledge of military and agricultural affairs. Well, good. Military affairs. We shouldn't be giving them so much power.
Yeah, but did they belong with the farmers? I don't know if that's fair.
No, I don't think they should, but yeah.
Actually, I found somebody the other day saying that he thought farming was the wrong turn we took as a civilization, and I was just like, wow. That's a take.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually found somebody saying this and I'm fascinated. Like
That's
that someone
interesting.
is I disagree, like personally I think it was the step right after that where people started amassing hordes of wealth.
Well, it was
That was the
not
mistake.
farming as much as husbandry, I think, because then that's where they were able to set up ideas of class without understanding the of class. Because you have husbandry, because like then you got the understanding that birth and having the ability to like having control of the birth rate and people as workers to work
Mhm.
for you so you don't hoard. So it kind of go in a combination of both. But like again, I like you can have agriculture. It's just that the way that we do agriculture is not right. But because
Right.
it's all monocultural shit that really depletes necessary growth for future
Right. Well, and like the
right.
idea that technology that feeds people is bad really just rubs me the wrong way. you know, um,
It's just our technology that we put into it is not good because it's about profit. It's not actually about feeding
no,
people,
yeah. Specific
right?
things can be
And so
bad.
it kind of and accumulated in a certain way of how we do things, but that doesn't mean it's bad. The foundation of feeding people, which is that it needs to
Right.
stay with feeding people and feeding.
Right. No, I'm in favor of feeding people, and that's what I have to come down
Yeah,
on. And this guy was
that's the
literally
problem. Is
saying,
now we're not feeding people; we're producing for profit.
right. And that's
Period.
bad. That's
That's
obviously
bad.
like a perversion of the thing.
Yeah.
But
Oh
like
yeah.
this guy was saying that farming, it's that settling down in farming was the mistake. And I was just like, wow,
But
that's a take.
is he thinking of the way that when he says that, is he just focused mainly on monocultural because he just hasn't thought that maybe there's a different way?
I don't know. He was speaking in a really broad, just like historical, cultural, as a civilization, this has sent us down the wrong path kind of way. And I just found it was really fascinating because as a lot of people will be like, oh, capitalism, oh, patriarchy, oh, this, that, and the other. This guy's like, no, we're just going to take it all the way back to the beginning. Like, okay.
So you want us to be hunter gatherers?
That was what he was suggesting. That was the mistake. That was the wrong turn we took. Yes,
I
and I
mean,
was
we
just
could, but that's not going to be very well for us
no.
because you're expecting us not. Uh,
It's just
that's
another
not.
revolutionary idea that like radical idea that ends up with a bunch of people starving to death.
Yeah, well, not just that. Like, it's still accumulated to where we are now. So even if you go all that far way back, that's not going to stop people from like going back and maybe even the same path. Anyways, like we have to have an understanding and then an understanding of how systems works in ecology to be able to feed everyone, which is possible,
Right.
and go down a different path, not go all the way to the beginning because that will just somehow fix everything. We have
Are
to have
you
an
saying that
understanding
just
of why
tearing
things are
everything down?
broken.
Are you
Like,
saying that just tearing everything down isn't the answer? That we should try and learn from our mistakes? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, imagine that.
What? I'm sorry. I interrupted you again. I'm
No,
sorry.
that's fine. I find these interesting conversations and talks that we get into. So
But we don't want to get it too out of hand. So we'll run out of time.
yeah, we don't want to run out of time. Where was I? I keep getting all into the talk and then I forget where I stopped. Okay, there it was. Oh, okay. All inhabitants participated in the production of food and goods. Everyone worked in the fields that they might understand the care and raising of animals. The European nobility, who had no mastery of skills and who considered manual labor ignoble, were to be ridiculed, which makes sense. Because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to do any of this shit. It relies on us, but they think that it's too good for them because they're gods. A good or divine right of God. Anyways, the equal sharing of workloads in the City of the Sun provided an opportunity for every person to engage in cultural and literary activities. people worked only 4 hours a day, that the remainder might be spent in, quote, learning joyously, in debating, in reading, in reciting, in writing, in walking, in exercising the mind and body, and with play, end quote. As in Christianopolis, the democratization of work, education, and leisure for all people represented a marked contrast to 16th century practices and norms.
Right, yeah, I was just thinking this guy, what's his name? Campanelli?
Yeah.
Went to prison for 20 some odd years because of these ideas. Like, wow.
Yeah.
We're sitting here going, oh, wow, murals sound cool. And then he was in, prison for it. Like,
yeah.
These people took this shit serious back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I just find this really interesting. They're, and this is how far back too that these people were like promoting these ideas.
Right, and that bit about,
which and then having to see which one won out, which is Bacon, New Atlantis, which I'm pretty sure we'll get into in the next chapter. So.
Oh, that's going to be genuinely interesting, actually. But isn't it interesting? Do you suppose Marx read any of this stuff? Because I heard something earlier about, being alienated from your, manual labor, the meaning of their,
Yeah.
That sounds very familiar. Do you suppose he read any of that stuff?
Well, yeah, he talks about this. He goes in on
Oh, okay.
this. Yeah.
By name? Is he name drop these guys? That's cool.
I don't think he's named them, but he talks about that whole idea of workers needing to take the reins of power because they're the ones that are working, right? So
no, yeah. So I just wonder if these ideas were passed down, or was it just independent, like germination? I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It might just be a natural sort of inclination that people even have, and the only reason why we don't do it is because it was motivated by people that had a lot of power to motivate it how they wanted to. And how they keep grooming us. That's another thing. This isn't the way that we are now is not natural because or else they wouldn't have to groom us to do this.
Right. Right. So, if these same ideas just keep coming up perennially over and over again, then maybe that means something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. As we were. Communal sharing. Both Christianopolis and the City of the Sun were communities in which goods, property, and knowledge were shared among the inhabitants. There was no differentiation between rich and poor, for wealth did not have meaning in real economic terms, but rather a dialectical meaning in the terms of values. Quote, but with them, the inhabitants of the City of the Sun, all the rich and poor together make up the community. They are rich because they want nothing, poor because they possess nothing, and consequently they are not slaves to circumstances, but circumstances serve them, end quote. The City of the Sun and Christianopolis both reflected the needs of the society's poor for equal distribution of wealth and the philosophy that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. In the City of the Sun, quote, no one wants either necessities or luxuries, end quote. Private property and ownership were considered to give rise to self-love and to foster private gain. By giving up private property, love was directed toward the whole community rather than toward the self. Likewise, in Christianopolis, quote, no one has any money, yet the republic has its own treasury. And in this respect, the inhabitants are especially blessed because no one can be superior to the other in the amount of riches owned, end quote, which is important. And that's what really is about. It's not the fact that the way that some right-wing capitalists see communism or communal living is you do all this work but nobody gets paid and you have to share in equal amounts. And so that's not the point. The point is it's the fact that there is a lot of gain by going along a communal path. It's the same way with Darwinism, right? That the people that or the things that are able to not die out, the species, are based usually upon the cohesion of the society that it forms, like communal animals. They all play their parts and they all help with the needs when their need arises, because it is more likely for it to be, for evolutionary periods, able to have more resources on hand in case some sort of catastrophe comes around. They're able to have the ability to thwart that. That's why they survive. right? It's not about the survival of the fittest. That is actually a term by a conservative Republican in America. I forget his name, who actually quoted that, not Darwin. So I find that really interesting that they've even taken that Darwinism and made it into something that um, establishes an ideal conservative capitalist sort of idea, right? In people, when really when really the actual natural idea of communities based on like the whole of the you know clan or tribe or whatever, right, is always like ones that survive because they have the ability to have more hands on deck and they're not in for themselves. They survive. And it's just there's very little amount of animals out there that aren't society or communal based. Like there may be a few
my
wild
favorite
cats.
take on this is that, you know, the saying, it's a dog eat dog world.
Yeah,
It's literally not.
it's
It's
not.
a dog. It's literally a dog help dog world. They form
Yeah,
packs.
yeah, but that doesn't work for capitalist's sake because capitalism wants individualism to a point because it helps them justify what they're doing.
Yeah. It does justify what they're doing because if you had your way, you'd do it too. You know it.
But they
And
don't.
they push their
The
shit
animals
onto
that
everyone.
are lone animals don't usually survive the evolutionary environment.
Right. There's also no such thing as a lone wolf either. Yeah. Yeah. You there?
Sorry. We're naturally inclined to work together for our own like evolutionary and ability to withstand like catastrophe sort of environmental like outcomes, right?
It's built into our very existence. I mean, as an infant, you know, you're born completely helpless.
Exactly. And most animals are social creatures. It helps them to evolve.
Right, because working together, you become like a super organism that is capable of all kinds of shit that the individual could never even begin to dream of accomplishing.
Individuals cannot thwart that because they only are one. But base where it's relied on many, like working together, is definitely way more encouraging to sustain itself, right? Anyways, but yeah, so where was I? I keep stopping. In both these communal societies, natural resources were utilized only for items necessary to the community as a whole. Nature was not raked for profit, the methodology on which the rising capitalist economy was so increasingly depend. The needs of the community took precedence over the special interests of the merchant class. Thus, in Christianopolis, goods were produced for use rather than for profit. The raw materials, metals, stones, woods, and the things needed for weaving were brought together for the production of communal goods. Quote, all things made are brought into a public booth. From here, every workman receives out of the store on hand whatever is necessary for the work of the coming week. For the whole city is, as it were, one single workshop, but of different sorts of crafts. No one has any money, nor is there any use for any private money. Yet the republic has its own treasury. End quote. Women. We're going to get to women now. In both Cosmopolis and the City of the Sun, women were more liberated than in the real 16th century society. However, their higher status was in each case due to different factors. In each state there were negative aspects to the treatment of women. That sucks. In the City of the Sun, women were taught means of physical defense and military strategy in the manner of the Spartans and Amazons by instructors and by magistrates. Like the men, they wore togas suitable for war, but at a length below rather than above the knee.
Is this the same place that put the military at the bottom with the farmers for some reason?
I think so. Yeah.
Ooh. Bottom rung achieved, ladies. All right.
Anyways, they received instruction in the manufacture and firing of cannonballs, the slinging of stones from precipices, and the methods of ground attack. Any women who showed fear were severely punished. In times of greatest danger in battle, the armed women and boys in training, women and boys, sorry, were allowed to find a place of retreat, but afterward, both were expected to help by treating the wounded men and praising them. Interesting.
And praising them. That's important.
Right?
Obviously.
Yeah. Yet the role of women in the City of the Sun was rather restricted. Both women and men worked at mechanical and theoretical occupations, but the more physically demanding tasks were assigned to men. Women were occupied by weaving, spinning, sewing, milking, cheese making, barbering, medical care, and music. They were excluded from working in wood and the manufacture of arms. Why? That's not like it's physical, but it's not physically too demanding that women couldn't do that shit.
It's
Whatever.
unbecoming of a lady, in his personal opinion. It's what that sounds
yes,
like to
men
me.
are stronger than women. I'll put that out. Yeah, of course. But we're not talking about like firefighting or like something where it's has a physical effect that could have detrimental. Like you're just making things with crafts.
Yeah. My understanding of it is that men have like more brute strength, but women have better stamina. So
Yeah,
you know.
stamina and agility actually. Like I have Dremel. I actually work stonework. I'm able to do that no problem, probably just as fast as any man.
Right.
Of anyone. So like that doesn't take the physical strength of capacity that is necessary. It's not necessary.
Well, the interesting thing about humans is we have this big brain that we use to invent tools that then anybody can use.
Anyone can use. It's not that it takes any amount of strength.
Really, it is the whole fucking point of inventing the tool is to make it easier to do whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, that's fucking weird. Okay, here we go. Let's see what you have to say about this. Because women in the City of the Sun would work and retain excellent bodily health and strength through exercise and military training, they would not lose their color and have pale, complex eons and become feeble and small, as did the women of leisured 16th century society. Norms for beauty were strength, agility, and tallness rather than the use of facial rouge, high-heeled boots, and garments with trains, in common usage in the real world. Well, I like that. I do like that. I don't.
Okay, but like, is this guy now using his utopian fantasy as an excuse to criticize women's fashion choices? Like,
I think so. But I do kind of agree. I criticize women's fashion choices because it's not really made by them. It's made by people who make them.
No,
which are men.
Yeah.
Which are men.
But like, okay, it seems kind of like a non sequitur. He seems kind of being sort of mean girling in the middle of his like utopian dream here.
Yeah, I don't mind going and taking that all out because I think lots of the women's fashion is stupid, and it's only there to physically limit women because they can't be mobile and naturally they cannot like move naturally.
And coming from you or somebody like you, it would feel a whole lot less catty. You know, it would feel a whole lot more like sympathy and a whole lot less like, ha, silly women.
Yeah.
Because
although
why is a man worried about it?
Over artificial trappings, Campanella was too fanatic about its importance. Women who use such artificial methods to attain beauty were condemned to capital punishment. You know?
See, this is what I'm getting at. He's clearly just using it.
Like, just wait, I wonder what's gonna
as an excuse to get judgmental about women's behavior, which I'm going to get judgmental about that. That's a no-no in my book.
That's like, I wonder where he's going with this. I wonder where he's going with this. Don't fuck around. Oh, he fucked around.
Yeah. Sounds like he's getting puritanical.
Wait, but capital punishment? Really, my dude?
Yeah, really? For makeup. For wearing makeup.
You're gonna kill her?
That's some incel logic right there. Wow. Yikes.
Yeah, right?
Who hurt you, my guy?
Yikes. Utopian authors wish to make scientific learning available to all women in a society, not just those of the upper classes and court salons. In Campanella's City of the Sun, the children of both sexes were to be taught natural science, followed by mechanical science, beginning at the age of 6. Quote, after 2 years, the weaned child is given to the charge of the mistresses if it is a female, and to the masters if it is a male. And then with other children, they are pleasantly instructed in the knowledge of the pictures and in running, walking, and wrestling, also in the historical drawings and in languages, and they are adorned with a suitable garment of different colors. After their 6th year, they are taught natural science and then the mechanical sciences. End quote. The children of Andreas Christianopoulos were to be given over to the state at the age of 6, where they were divided into classes for education. Both men and women would instruct them. Boys were taught in the mornings and girls in the afternoon. Quote, I know not why this sex woman, which is naturally no less teachable, is elsewhere excluded from literature. The rest of their time is devoted to manual training and domestic art and science, as each one's occupation is assigned according to his natural inclination. End quote. Young women were to be liberally educated, taught by the wives of the men who had been placed in charge of the boys, and by widows who, in Christianopolis, were honored like mothers. Married women would be expected to use the knowledge they acquired in college. However, they had no political voice. There you go. But it's
Because I mean, he just said that they're equally teachable, but they have no political voice.
Then why do you not have a political voice?
Yeah, where's that other shoe gonna drop?
You're doing so well. You're being so progressive until we get to the fucking goddamn women. No, like seriously, what is with these people that think
maybe
that
the next line
natural position needs to be subordinate?
Oh, yeah, maybe the next line will tell us why he thinks that they shouldn't have a political. I don't know. Go on. You go on.
Yeah. Quote. Whatever scholarship they have, being mentally gifted, they improve diligently, not only to know. Hold on. Oh, come on, these fucking papers. Not only to know something themselves, but that they may sometime teach. In the church and in the council hall, they have no voice. Yet nonetheless, they shine with the gifts of heaven. God has denied this sex nothing. But you just did!
Right, he just did.
Pious of which fact that eternal blessed Mary is a most glorious example, end quote. But you just did. You just contradicted yourself.
Yeah, I'm not understanding that.
You denied the sex nothing, but you just denied the political voice.
Right, God denied them nothing, but he did, so that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, right?
So you think he knows better than God?
I guess so.
That's what I'm getting.
I swear to God. Anyways, if men married women who were too domineering for them, it was the man's fault for being too weak. Too domineering for them.
You know what? I think I might have to agree with that one, because if you can't handle her, you shouldn't try. You know, like maybe that's your fault.
I know, but like, does that mean if they're too domineering, do you mean that they're not, it's their fault for not being domineering towards them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think.
How about we just like, it's not good to be domineering at all. Either way.
I think I'm being snotty.
Really, but it doesn't seem they're talking about that. They're only talking about it's with women.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives me pause. Each of the two must be responsible for their own duties equally, without secret rule by the women. What? But you're focusing on the women. It's not women who are secretly doing this. It's men in this, especially this time period. So what are you fucking talking about? Okay.
Rape culture. I don't know.
Yeah. Wife beating in Christianopolis would be considered a disgrace and a rarity. Well, I mean,
at least there's that.
There's that, I guess. But is that just talk? Because you're not talking about men's domineering of women that way. You're talking about women's domineering that way, and it's the fault of the men for not domineering them back.
Right. Well, she's not allowed to dominate you, but you're not allowed to hit her. So
supposedly, yeah. Anyways, yeah. Midwives were to be held in highest regard, and only those who were well versed in scientific knowledge, medical skills, and religious piety would be considered for this esteemed position. Women's accomplishments in childbirth and the strength with which they bore the pains of labor were given greater precedence than the achievements of all the earth's athletes. Of the two authors, Campanella's views on the family were more radical. People shared common dormitories and ate at common tables. After 2 years, children were weaned from their mothers and placed in the care of mistresses and masters. Andrea retained the family structure. Chrysopolis lived in 264 separate, simply furnished homes, each containing 3 rooms, a fragrant garden, and a small private cellar, all owned by the community as a whole. Okay, politics and community. Andrea's and Campanella's utopias can be seen as a political and religious response to the breakup of community taking place under 16th century commercial expansion and continuing feudal disintegration. Both utopias were set in the religious framework of corporate Christian community. Campanella, a member of the Catholic Dominican order, was influenced by Platonist ideas. Although Andrea, a Protestant, was a Lutheran pastor, he advocated a social order dominated by Calvinist morality. Both rejected monarchy as a political form and drew up governments under collective rule. Although he did not subscribe to Calvinist religious teachings, Andrea was very much influenced by the morals and customs of Calvinist Geneva, which he visited in 1610. Calvin's legacy to Andrea was his perception of the need to restore a lost sense of community combined with a strong church government. For the Protestant church to survive in a world of power, it needed an institutionalized, cohesive organization. Calvin's contribution was to recognize the political possibilities of participation without a papal head. The need for order and structure made the Calvinist church a political society. The priesthood of all believers created a sense of equality in a mass movement against the established order. In the Genevan system of church government, see, but now we're talking about theocracy. In the Genevan system of church government, both elected lay people and ministers formed the consistory, in which the ministers had the greater power. The congregation approved or rejected the decisions of the consistory, but did not formulate policy. In Christianopolis, the two elements of participation by the citizenry and decision-making by a ruling group were both present. Andrea's utopia was governed by a triumvirate, a Christian priest, a judge, and a dictator of learning. These 3 leaders each had separate duties, which were performed with the knowledge of the others and with their common consent. Each was responsible to his own senate and announced its decrees to the rest of the citizenry. The leaders qualified for office by working upward through the virtues to loyalty, prudence, and wisdom. This form of governance was judged by Andrea to be safer than monarchy. But there's some issues, but we'll keep going. But Andrea's zeal for Calvinist moral reform proved to be one of the weakest aspects of his utopia. Yeah. The free atmosphere for artisans at Christianopolis was tainted by rigid moral controls that Andrea substituted for corporal punishment. He considered it more humane to prevent vice than to inflict harsh penalties. Quote, as the Christian citizen are always chary of spilling blood, they do not willingly agree upon the death sentence as a form of punishment, end quote. The real world tended to make scapegoats out of undesirables for the sake of mollifying God. Quote, thieves out of dissolute characters, adulterers of the intemperate, homicides of loafers, and witches of courtesans. Witches! End quote. Okay. Yeah. But in his attempt to prevent misdeeds, both on the part of the citizens and enforcers of laws, Andrea turned to a rigid moralism. Crimes against property were punished most lightly, those against other people more severely, while those against God received harsh punishment and judgment. Infidelity was severely punished, and the state-owned houses were inspected so that nothing could be destroyed or damaged. Visitors
I
were
like that
examined
witch thing. It's like this backdoor to being able to punish women randomly whenever they want for whatever they want.
Yeah, that's what it's. Yeah, but because you're even like honoring its existence, but we know people like Hobbes and all that from Caliban the Witch and all that knew that witches weren't real, but they still said, but we need to punish them. So the fact that they don't understand this either, I have a feeling they do, and that is really concerning in there that they would actually promote the idea of the witch.
But I think they're all taking advantage of like folk beliefs, right, to control people.
Yeah.
Fun stuff for their own good, because it's for their own good. Because it's always for your own good.
That's right. Visitors were examined as to their morals, past lives, and personal culture, while attendance at sermons was compulsory. Throughout his treatise, Andrea moralized about the evils of Satan and human nature. The wickedness of human nature. There you go. That's always a good foot to stand on.
So wait, I'm sorry. What is utopianism based on? Isn't utopianism based on like being in harmony with nature? I'm confused.
Yeah, in harmony with nature, but human nature is evil. Somehow. Because we're
What?
still not accepting the idea that we are nature.
I
So
guess.
that really doesn't do well for your whole treatise. Sorry.
No,
That's really weird
I'm
and contradictory.
sensing
But
some deep conflicts here, you know?
yeah, you don't say. Okay. The model for these moral strictures was Geneva. On his 1610 visit, Andrea was impressed by the fact that, quote, all cursing, gambling, luxury, quarreling, hatred, conceit, deceit, extravagance, and the like, to say nothing of greater sin, are prevented, end quote. But this glorious adornment was achieved in Geneva through a censorship of morals in accordance with which investigations are made each week into the morals and even into the slightest transgressions of the citizens. The use of moral strictures to maintain political order was the major failing of Andrea's utopia model and stemmed in part from the inherent difficulties of reconciling the problems of power and order with community.
In other words, who gets to
Whereas,
decide what's moral and what's not?
exactly.
Yeah.
And if they do, are they not doing it for the betterment? Are they really doing it for the betterment of everyone, or they're just trying to gain power themselves, really, by presenting this utopia that would appeal to people, but in reality would just allow them greater power? That says something.
Oh, I mean, there's a certain level of just hubris
Yeah.
in suggesting that you have solved all the problems to begin with.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And I say, hubris is the word I would use to be generous here.
Yeah.
I could be meaner. It's very, very,
Yeah.
very, very self-important, very vainglorious, very,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Andrea's utopia bore the theoretical stamp of Calvinism, Campanella's was influenced by Platonism. For Plato, ideal rule was expressed by the unity of the trinity of virtue, knowledge, and power. The city of the sun was ruled by a philosopher king. Metaphysic, Ho, assisted by the trinity, power, wisdom, and love, or Pon, sin, and more, all four together made decisions and settled business matters, but deferred to Ho in event of 9 magistrates responsible to each of the 3 ministers were elected by the people. Periodically, councils of all people over 20 years of age were called, in which each person was asked to say, quote, what was wanting in the state and which of the magistrates had discharged their duties rightly and which wrongly, end quote. More, or love, charge of the breeding of both animals and human beings. The
I'm
breeding of
sorry.
human beings.
Go back a sentence. What?
Yeah, eugenic controls were used to produce the best offspring for the preservation of the species.
This is hypothetical, right?
Woo! This is culty. Now we're getting culty, not utopianish.
Oh, yeah. Well, the difference is what exactly?
Yeah, right? Right? I don't know much. Those qualities were desirable that enhanced the natural strengths and beauty of the people and made them more consonant with our natural surroundings. Since
But so
war was
this is all
emphasized
still
as a product,
hypothetical, right? This is not
yeah,
something that actually, okay.
it didn't
It
occur.
wasn't,
This is what they were putting in their works, in their written
right.
literary works, of which they try to
It
present
was
their position in
another
the
couple
age.
hundred years before anybody actually got around to putting any of this into practice, I
Well, they were
guess.
trying to. They literally tried to do revolution, fucking like war acts
Right,
on, right. So they were
right.
trying.
Right. And then you come like literally the 19th century in the United States, people were doing literally this.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
We'll get to bacon in a bit. that, I think that's what's next, but we'll see. Okay, wait, I read that part. Since war was emphasized as a protective measure, physical rather than intellectual qualities were the criteria for breeding. Therefore, if there were cases in which a union between two people might endanger the future of the race, friendship, conversation, flowers, and verses were substituted for sexual love. The evils of eugenic programs for the breeding of peoples of superior intelligence have become apparent in the 20th century. There we go. Although Campanella's controls were directed toward the enhancement of nature rather than intellectual qualities, the eugenics program was one of the weakest aspects of his utopian scheme. The utopias of Campanella and Andrea had a number of shortcomings in the midst of plans for important social reforms. Yet their ideas are worth examining because they propose concrete schemes for a better society in times of despair and oppression. They were not mere visionaries but activists who attempted to translate their ideas into community change. Most importantly, they envisioned societies whose philosophies of science were consistent with the integrity of the natural environment and with human equality, except for women, it appears. Even though they made
Women
claims,
aren't human. Everybody knows that. Except for
right?
women, because we're stupid.
Um, In these utopias, all parts of the natural and social community were interrelated in organic unity in which both human and natural components were equal to value in the functioning of the whole. The whole organism was greater than the sum of the individual parts. The collective good was greater than the advancement of any one part over the others. Change came from within the community rather than as a directive from without, and was determined by the needs of the entire human nature system. But they were wicked. The system of human nature system is a wicked one if you think about it, because that's what they would say. Anyway, ecology and utopia. In the tradition of the ancient connections assumed between nature and society, the ecology movement of the last several years has emphasized the small, ecologically balanced community over the more conservative hierarchical model. By viewing people as integral components of the larger ecosystem, it has tried to break down the dualism between humans and nature and has challenged the idea of human superiority and independence from nature. The environmental crisis, it argues, is the result of human arrogance toward nature and of the continued use without replenishment of its resources. The communal and utopian variants of the organic model are compatible with the ecology movement's emphasis on the integrative aspects of small communities in which people observe the limits of ecosystems' resources. Using the concept of harmonic balance in the natural community, urban communal households and ecotopian farming communities have challenged the competitive ideals of capitalist society and are attempting to live within the laws prescribed by ecology. Holistic houses constructed of wood operating on the energy of the sun and wind demonstrate the possibility of urban living based on renewable resources and the recycling of wastes. The Back to the Land movement creates rural communities or communes by sharing human and natural resources and appropriate technologies while employing organic farming techniques and biological pest controls. Some environmentalists have ascribed an intrinsic ethic to the ecosystem itself, abrogating the distinction between descriptive and prescriptive statements, that is, between is and ought. Ecological ethics boldly asserts that not only is it morally right to recycle resources for the sake of future generations, it is also, because human beings are integral to and dependent on the environmental fabric for survival, obligatory to live within the framework of ecological law. The environment prescribes human behavior and its limits, since exploitation will ultimately lead to extinction. Environmental ethics is thus not merely an ethic about the environment, but an ethic determined by it as well. Until the appearance of Ernest Callenbach's Ecotopia, published in 1976, modern utopian authors had not explored the possibility that a society could live in harmony with its environment while continuing to utilize many of the advances made through modern technology. Most utopias, as reactions to the repressive possibilities of technology, have been technological dystopias, typified by Aldous Huxley's Brave New World and George Orwell's 1984. Positive utopias such as Huxley's Island and A.T. Wright's Islandia, with the exception of B.F. Skinner's Walden 2, published in 1948, rejected technology in favor of a return to an era of pre-technological simplified living. Both types reflected the increasing despair of sensitive authors toward machines and their implications for the future of society. In Kattenbach's Ecotopia, based on the ideals of the ecology movement, Northern California, Oregon, and Washington succeed from the United States in the year 1980 and remain isolated until 2000, when a New York reporter is allowed to visit the steady state society. In Ecotopia, social structure is based on an ecological philosophy of nature. Significantly, it is women who, in this back to nature society, organize the succession and then hold the positions of power in the major political party, the presidency, and the ministry. Farm Farms, factories, and stores are owned and operated collectively. Private property has been abolished, and the former downtown San Francisco offices of corporations have been turned into apartment houses. People live in mini cities separated by reforested wild areas and joined by electrically operated high speed mass transit systems, or in small communities in rural areas. City streets have been turned into malls planted with trees, flowers, ferns, and bamboos through which creeks flow over little waterfalls, resurrected from water culverts. Intracity free transportation is by bicycle, electric taxi, and minibus. Interurban trains connect Ecotopia to the rest of the country. Trains, freighters, electric trucks, and a few diesels are used to transport farm produce and manufactured items. Buildings are constructed mainly of wood from carefully replanted forest plots in the Pacific Northwest, although new biodegradable plastics have been developed, out of which modules are produced for imaginative do-it-yourself homes. All synthetic fibers were banished after independence in favor of recyclable cotton, wool, leather, and furs. Metal left over from procession days were collected and reused in transport vehicles and electric motors. A small amount is still imported to replace exported electrical machinery. Electrical energy in Ecotopia is supplied by geothermal, hydroelectric, and solar sources, with few inherited temporarily tolerated but carefully controlled fusion plants. Technology in general is highly sophisticated, with picture phones, television, and computers used in communication, ecological monitoring devices for control of pollution levels, and radar-guided rockets, infrared homing missiles, and hidden mines in major American cities for defense. So this obviously didn't happen. This is the Ecotopia sort of
Yeah.
idea that
It's like a
yeah, just to
modern
make clear,
version.
just in case everyone's confused. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this ecological society, reverence for trees, water, and wildlife forms the basis of an ecological religion expressed in the prayers, poetry, and little shrines of the Ecotopians. Decentralized communities, extended families, spontaneity, freedom of emotional expression, and the practice of ritual war games to deal with competitive instincts characterize the cultural norms and values. As in Andreas Christianopoulos and Campanella's City of the Sun, Ecotopia's social structure is an expression of its holistic philosophy of nature. Like them, it reflects the need for social changes and the most idealistic aspirations of contemporary society. As changes irrevocably altered the ecology of the farms, fens, and forests of Europe, as the organic hierarchical order was undermined by social mobility, and as the Earth's womb and communal resources became the basis for a market in money and property, so too the larger cosmos as a living organism was being transformed. As a projection of their self and society onto the celestial spheres, the macrocosm, like the human microcosm, was for most Renaissance philosophers a tightly knit unity of body, soul, and spirit, within which all things were arranged in hierarchical order. To see how these elements were reordered and assimilated or radically rejected by an emerging mechanical framework is the task ahead. So that will be the next chapter because we are done.
Very
How did you
nice.
like this chapter? Was good? What
Oh
do you think?
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was fascinating, you know.
really interesting.
I yeah. I I
Yeah,
don't
and the fact
have
that like
any
it
like
resurfaces even in like contemporary modern, like with the whole
yeah,
ecology movement, a lot of
right.
that whole like utopian desires
Hmm.
be put out in literary works have like reoccurred and had a resurgence. And saying that though, there's a lot of issues I take with a lot of the utopian
Yeah.
um literary ideals because a lot of the time people have I find have trouble understanding how these technologies in a modern sense work. That it isn't possible a lot of the time to maintain them without oil, for one. And a lot of the chemical uses for like solar panels are like forever chemicals, like, and they break down, and they don't talk about breaking down the actual capitalist. So capitalism make these technologies obsolete at a certain point. So you'd have to for one get rid of that. Two, and another, how are you going to build it if it's going to be on a world, because those are made on world trade basis, right? For the metals to make them, right?
Yeah.
Like windmills, that takes resources that are finite, and they like, so like there's a lot of issues. I just want to say that I do have a lot of like questions and issues with some of these utopian sort of ideas people have for the future, especially when it comes to like transhumanism.
Oh yeah.
And the idea of cyborgism, which I think is just crazy shit.
Yes.
Like, because that's a utopian for a lot of bros, is the tech bro utopias.
Yeah.
And that's shit scary.
Yeah.
So you have to really.
That seems to be like the latest, most modern iteration on that whole idea that technology. I mean, technology will set us free, like better living through technology. Like that's what this is, right? Really.
Yeah.
And I think these guys were talking about implementing social technology, and transhumanism is just like applying a lot of these ideas to the individual's own body, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Where we can, sort of conceptualize it as a bunch of pieces that can be optimized.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think society is necessarily a bunch of pieces that can be optimized. And that's actually one of the things.
Yeah, like cogs in a wheel, like a machine.
Right, yeah. We keep coming back to this idea. I keep coming back to this idea because I guess it's like the dark underbelly of a lot of leftist ideas, a lot of these utopian ideas, a lot of these egalitarian ideas, is that they're going to take your children away.
Well, that's the thing. I get the sentiment, but like
that's
they
a hard
really allow for like an opening of like how like they always like on a basis that like their utopia is usually on a basis of what already has that the basis is formed post industrialism, so it has a very mechanical feel to it. And that's, I think, really
see, these guys from the 16th century, right?
Yeah.
That guy Campanelli is the one who was saying that.
Or 15th century, or in 1600s.
The 17th century. But so before the Industrial Revolution, especially in Italy.
Yeah.
So no, like you can't even blame that. And so it's just so interesting to me that like that just like where some of these utopian trains of thought end up, because I'm sorry, like once you're talking about taking people's kids away, number one, that's not going to happen. Number two, that's super fascist, authoritarian.
That's
messed up. Like, no, I know. And that's bad. Okay. Because I think if people have children, which I think should be a choice, but if you choose to have children, it's because you want to raise them, right? Like that, and like spend time with them and love them and stuff.
Like, I think it would be better to integrate that with the community and having the community raise them at certain levels, like not raise them, but like teach them certain things, but not raise them. Send them away somewhere.
My kid's at school right now. Yeah. Both of my kids are at school right now. Okay. So like, community involvement.
Yeah,
and that teaches the kids to be involved in the community. It
sounds like they're taking the kids away completely from the parents.
Right. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's
good.
plausible. I don't think that's gonna ever happen.
So like once it's a fascistic state.
Okay, but like that's not utopia. Forcing people to hand over their small children is not a utopia.
I mean, they're also giving they're trying to sustain also in these utopias, sustain an idea that someone else is going to tell you how to breed and with who.
Mhm. Now
for
that was
those
going to be
children.
my next question: is if a desire to raise children is not involved in the decision to have children, then is breeding compulsory? Like, what are we saying?
Yeah, it sounds like that's what they're doing is breeding compulsory.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
wild.
it
Just
is, but it's
wild.
that's literally the next logical step there.
I know, but that's wild.
Yeah. So we've crossed
Crazy.
from trying to make everything the best that it can be for everybody to we're going to take your babies. Like, what the fuck?
It's the best way.
Trust me, it's
No,
for your own good.
it's for your
No.
own good.
Wow. Like, no. You're just never going to sell that to the public at large.
Yeah,
And that's like, I want to say why the
that sure is
labor
something.
movement
That's a
happened.
sure hot take. I'll tell you that.
It is, it is, it is. But I keep running into this. I keep running into this. Like I
Yeah.
say, the communists in Russia did the same. That was their idea. Was they were just going to have daycares and everybody was going to go to work.
Well, that's what everyone
And
does already.
no, I know that's what we do now. That was 100 years
I
ago.
know. Yep.
The fact that this is reality now is a living nightmare for I think a lot of people in one way and
Yeah.
another.
Well, it's a way to propagandize, right? The thing. That's what it's for. That's what it's for here too. And it's like, well, why are we recreating that if that's part of the problem?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's like, but it's like they don't even conceive of that being a problem. Like, yeah. So it really just, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and that's an interesting. We were talking about conceptualizing things as like individual parts that can be optimized. If it's their individual parts, then you don't necessarily have to consider how they're related to one another and how they function
But
as
you
a
sort of
whole at
do,
all.
but you sort of do if you're going to have cohesion. You can't go all
No, I
individualistic
know,
either.
I
So
know. You should, but I'm just saying, like this whole framework makes it so that you don't have to. You can just go like your entire rhetorical like life without ever having to consider. You know, you can be very laser focused on what you want to look at and ignore the stuff that you don't.
yeah, but yeah, the only problem is the whole like extremes on one end and extremes on the other because like you need to have cohesion and a society that helps one another and is involved with another, but you
Yeah.
also don't want to make it so that you have no control, no say whatsoever.
Right,
Um,
right, right. We got to balance the individual
and
versus
defer
the
to someone else
community.
that has that ability and power. But you also
Yeah,
don't want to, yeah. But you also don't want to be too individualistic, where you stop fucking caring about your community and pursue the subjugation of them for your own benefit, right? So
right,
those are like two extremes, and it seems like a hard place to try to figure out what to do to maintain a cohesion and equilibrium of both. You know what I mean?
right. Yeah, and utopian seems to be sort of the opposite extreme of the hyper individualism from that we actually live with, which is funny because
it's a way to try to, I think, but the thing is, it still might be hyper individualism, just not for the people, and that is what's concerning because that's because the people that have the power, they're promoting this, but they might be promoting it for their own benefit, so it is very individualistic, but only for the people that would be benefiting, which would be the people that are trying to promote it. So, like, is it really like a utopia or is it just propaganda? That's the thing that like is disconcerting too, right? When it comes to these utopian ideas,
oh
is it
yeah,
just a
no,
way for
yeah,
someone else to gain the hand of power?
yeah, obviously.
So, yeah, that's the
Some
thing, right? That's the
yeah, and these guys
that's
who think that they know what's best for everybody.
exactly,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
No, it struck me that it's kind of funny how, super collectivism like that versus the super individualist fragmented thing we have going on now, and they both end up with you handing your baby over to somebody else so you can go to work.
And let them tell you how to breed.
Yeah.
That's the
Isn't that
craziest thing
funny?
in these utopias.
Isn't that funny? Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Like, don't like see. That's the thing. Maintaining that sort of controlled population is why women are subjugated in the first place. So why
Yeah.
are we not dissecting that as well with all of the rest of the shit?
Oh, well, we wouldn't want to
Because if you're not
question
going to
that.
dissect it, if you ignore it, and if you're trying to do things like select breeding, which is going to harm women, then it seems
Mhm.
like you're not trying to actually have an egalitarian moral society. You're just trying to gain power, because the way you do that is you need population control. Why are you so worried about the
Oh,
population and how the numbers and whose breeds? That's ridiculous. It's fucked up.
it is. You're right. It shouldn't have anything to
To
do
me
with
that
it.
you are trying to gain power, because the reason why you do that would be to gain power.
Hmm. Right. It belies your real motive to be concerned about
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But I'm glad we got through the whole chapter. It was a long chapter, but it was really interesting. Even if
Yeah.
like some concerning things in there, it's so quite interesting, I think.
No, I do. I like these little like sort of excursions down little historical like trains of thought, like paths of thought.
Yeah. And dissect it.
Uh-huh. And like it's
Yeah.
interesting how some of it has sort of, died out and fallen by the wayside, and some of it has like reoccurred, and some of it is just
Yeah,
really weird.
resurgence of it, yeah, but in a modern sense, which is
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I say, these ideas seem to be perennial. It's like the problems they're trying to solve are still there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, capitalism's still here, and then
Right.
capitalism was what was transferring there, so that makes sense.
Right. And it's like so people come up with similar ideas to try and solve this, and I don't think a lot of that stuff actually works, unfortunately.
No, I don't think it does either, and I don't think that they have a good understanding of its history either.
No, especially like apparently not. If you think this shit started with Marx, apparently not,
Well, Marx didn't really. I don't think Marx actually advocated for utopia.
No, but he was not in that, you know, by using that word and like looking for perfection and whatever, but there's a lot of the similar ideas there,
Yeah, well, I
right?
think that some of the
So,
ideas are correct. The
no, I'm
ones
not
that are
saying
good.
they're bad.
The thing with Marxism is
Mhm.
it's mostly a dissection of how capitalism works. When it comes
Right,
to communism, that's not Marxism. Even if
right.
Marx was a communist, his Marxism is about dissecting and understanding capitalism. It has nothing to do with communism.
Right. But he was full of ideas about how these things should work, though.
That's not part of this capital. That's not Marxism, though. That was his own belief. Marxist theory is about analyzing capitalism. That's it. Oh,
So I'm saying
hello?
that,
Hello?
yeah.
I went away.
Hello. No, I'm sorry. My
Sorry.
alarm is going off because it's time to get up and go.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, just like I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people believe Marxist theory as the same and equate it with communism. And don't get me wrong, he wrote about that shit. He talked
Mhm.
about that shit. He was for it, but it's not a part of Marxist theory. Marxist theory is a separate thing, and it's just about analyzing capitalism and how it functions, right?
Mhm.
Because most people don't understand the difference that there was, like, between his personal belief of what should come from that understanding is still not the understanding, right? It's not Marxist theory. It's just what he position. And I don't agree with everything Marx said, but I think actual Marxist theory has a lot of concrete understandings of how capitalism functions and why it functions the way it does and why the society comes out the way it does because of it. So,
Right. And I'm just saying that he was addressing a lot of the same problems that these guys were like 200 years earlier, and they had some similar,
yeah,
thoughts about that.
yeah, no, totally.
That's all. But so I guess I should go. I have to go.
Yeah. But I had a lot of fun today, even though we had some really heavy arguments. It was great. It was stimulating. Stimulating as fuck.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that later. Not today, like another day, and figure out what happened. That's gonna be fun. All right.
All right.
So next week, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, next week, of course. What's the next one?
Cool.
I just want to see. Hold on.
Okay.
Chapter 4: The World as Organism. whatever that
Ooh.
means.
I thought we already covered that, but who knows?
No, we went into utopian society.
Right.
And then chapter 5, again, I've said this before, I will go through them again. Chapter 5 is nature as disorder, women and witches. Woo!
Oh yeah, that's the one I'm really looking forward to. So next week is the one about
yeah, me too.
next week is the one about
about
nature as an organism. Okay.
world as organism.
Oh.
Yeah, the world as organism.
Not as orgasm, although that would be fun
Yeah,
too.
not orgasm. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to read it and see, find out. World as organism. World as orgasm.
After all, how does that organism come to being?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so yeah, you have yourself a good week.
Yeah, you too, and I will talk to you Friday.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. All right, bye everybody.
Yeah. Bye. See you next time.